5, 4, 3. Hello, Governor. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, June the 21st, 2025, and I'm reporting live from my house. Good to see each and every one of you on board this morning. First in the door was Mojo, followed shortly by Tom Graber, who starts right off the bat gifting a Dugroz Reports membership. That's just as good as a $3 donation. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. Mike Newlands here says, good morning. Let's cross the pond today. Well, I've got my United Kingdom flags. I've got my currency from the United Kingdom. I'm not sure what coin that is, but there's a picture of the Queen on there. So yes, today's theme of the day is what's in my British wallet. The idea is that later this summer, my family is going back to the United Kingdom. We were there 2 summers ago. We're also swinging by Wales and Austria as part of that trip, and we'll get into those details a little later, but hang in there if you want to hear about the cards that I'm going to be using during that expedition. Gold Homer has arrived and also hopes I don't get lost in the pond. David Gomez is on board, has a question about credit cards in the U.S. when you live in Mexico, and I don't know the answer to that. Maybe someone else can help him. We've got 22 people on board. Please click the thumbs up button. That'll drive more people in here to watch it, both now and after the fact, so that's a way to help out. D. Green has arrived, Dad on a Mission, Ian M., Vincent Pascal, Green Knight. Gold Homer asked, did you kippers for breakfast with Aunt Helga? Don't know what any of that means. It's probably something British. Ian wants to know what's for breakfast. We'll have the Dugroz Eats segment a little later. And Gold Homer thinks 50-50 Aeroplan and Altitude Reserve are the cards that are going to be in my British wallet. No harm in predicting, but you'll just have to stick around to find out. All right, well, I usually start each segment with a couple of Dugroz data points. This is any sort of information that I find around the world of points and miles that's generally interesting to me and perhaps brings you folks up to date on some sort of data point you missed or that I just want to highlight. So we'll start with this hat tip frequent miler. Major devaluation. Amex Business Platinum is ending the 35 points rebate on business and first class flights. Bum, 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 bum. I like how they say, not content with letting Chase hog all of people's negative reactions. So you probably know the business platinum card from American Express has a 35% points rebate when you book on either your preferred airline or any airline in business or first class. The your preferred airline part will remain, but the any business and first class will not remain. So that's kind of a mixed reaction. I talked last week about how I booked this on American, got my rebate, and it was a changeable but not refundable because refundable is way more expensive. And basically they give you a credit that expires a year after booking, and it has to be the same person, same airline. So was it a great benefit? Depends on who you ask, but definitely a devaluation that any business, any first class is unfortunately going away. Mike from Los Angeles stops by and says, good morning, as does John R. Hey, look, my good friend John R. has gifted 5 Dugroz Reports memberships. That's just as good as a $15 super chat. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, John. I really, really appreciate that. A few words on membership a little later in the video. Kevin Hawthorne has arrived from Lakeland, Florida. And John R. says that he is a Dugroz diehard reporting for duty, and he certainly is. Way to go. Mike wants to give you a high five, too. Let's keep going with our data points here, see what else is worth talking about. This one is not a giant deal, but it's a deal, so let's take a look at it. I had a Shutterfly offer on my Chase card, specifically my Sapphire Reserve. Spend $5 or more, get $5 off. So you'll see my wife ordered a Shutterfly book, got a $5 coupon. And if you're unsure what $5 is, no, that came out wrong. Hopefully you know what $5 is. Do I need to show you a picture? If you're unsure what Shutterfly is, let me show you. It's a company that does, well, they do multiple things, but the thing they're kind of known for in my mind is these photo books. Here's one from our trip to England, Wales, and Sweden in 2023. And it's sort of like digital scrapbooking. Back in the 90s, people would, tape photos in and stamp and stuff. This is just the digital equivalent of that. And we like to do one for every vacation plus a general once a year catch up. So if you or your significant other is into Shutterfly, you might want to check that out. Don't remember when it expires, probably moderately soon. Ian M. celebrates his 8 months of channel membership. Best club around. Glad to have you on board for 8 months. Thank you for your patronage, Ian. And Gold Homer says, by $5, do you mean sandwiches? $5 foot longs. Michael S. has arrived and says, thanks for the membership, John. Love your channel. Congrats on 1K. And I echo all of those sentiments. Glad you were able to benefit from John's generosity, Michael. 31 people on board. Go ahead and keep clicking thumbs up, and we'll keep going around the horn with our Dugroz data points. So there's something you may have heard earlier this week. There was a lot of stuff that happened from Chase, specifically the new and improved Chase Sapphire Reserve. Lando says, come on, Chase, old buddy, don't let me down. I just got a pop-up that said I lost my internet connection, but then it came back on. It switched to wireless and then to wired. So if there's any problems, let me know. What did happen? Did Chase let us down? It depends on who you ask. I'm not going to go into a full-blown review, but here's what the new card looks like. There's been plenty of people reporting on this, so I don't need to be the one to show you every little tiny detail. But yeah, we got a new physical card. It's got that weird sort of Epcot grid structure thing on it. And right now, we're going to take a little side excursion here because Dugroz did a wee bit of research, not a lot, but a wee bit regarding the edit. So what is the edit? With the new and improved Chase Sapphire Reserve, you're going to pay $800 in annual fees. If you add an auth user, you're going to pay something more like $1,000 in annual fees. There's that pop-up about my internet again. Anybody experiencing lag or issues? If you are, please report in. If not, just let me know that the signal is true and clear. I would appreciate that. The edit from Chase is basically kind of like their equivalent of fine hotels and resorts, and you get $500 in credits per year. That's broken down into $250 per semester. Now, these are the fancier hotels. When I say semester, the dividing point would be July 1st of each year. So first half of the year, second half of the year. And you get $250 credit towards these fancy edit hotels. John R. has no issues with the stream. Brian Jackson has no issues with the stream. So thank you for letting us know. And Yuri G's reporting in. Ian asks any details on welcome offers yet. Not that I'm aware of. I believe that comes out on the 23rd, which is Monday. But please don't quote me on that. What do you get with the edit by Chase? Well, in addition to your $250 credit, you get things like daily breakfast for two, a $100 property credit, and that would be towards parking, massages, meals in addition to breakfast, that kind of stuff. Room upgrade at check-in if available. Now, I'm not a fan of anything that says if available. Early check-in if available. Don't like that. Wi-Fi. And 4 p.m. guaranteed late checkout. Now, I like the word guaranteed, so that's pretty good. It says earn 3x points. There was some debate. I saw Matt Clausen and others on the Discord going round and round. Do you earn 8? Do you earn 1? Do you earn 3? Says you earn 3, so whatever that's worth. That's what it says on Chase's own literature, unless that's going to change. So my big question is, can you take advantage of the edit in the way that I would most benefit from taking advantage of it? So, I'm not a big fancy high-end traveler here. I'm simultaneously lowbrow and highbrow. I'm happy staying in a tiny cottage in the woods of West Virginia. I'll also go to the Salamander Resort and chill out with the old money crowd from the East Coast. But if it's like a $3,000 a night hotel and I get a $250 credit, ain't got time for that. So I just wanted to see where that fell. So I did a little bit of research. The first thing I did was just look at some places that either I've been or I want to go, just to kind of see what's out there. First, I started in Edinburgh, Scotland. Not going to Scotland this time around, but will at some point. You do have a 2-night minimum, so all of these prices that I'm showing you are for 2 nights. The Gleneagle Townhouse, a little over $1,000. That's kind of steep. The Balmoral Arecoforte Hotel, a little over $1,100, although I do like the scenery. We've got 100 Princess Street, $3,100. I will never be able to afford that. So yeah, take $250 off that. Meh, that doesn't do me a lot of good. Are there some that are more affordable? Well, here's the St. Regis in Washington, D.C., almost $1,200. And I just picked these dates somewhat off peak. I think the ones in Scotland were for like October. Don't quote me on that. The D.C. ones were for maybe next May. Now, here's an example that's more reasonable. The DuPont Circle, $670. Round that up to $700. Take off your $250. You're netting out of pocket $450. That's still $225 a night. Can I afford to save that much money? Well, it depends on who you ask. If you go outside Washington, D.C., just a little bit to a place that I've actually been, the Salamander Middleburg, $1,869 for a 2-night stay. I did not pay that much. I used Choice Points to book mine and got about 3 cents per point. So did a lot better than that. All right, now let's look at some comparisons, some head-to-head comparisons. And I only did 3 of them. Again, these were somewhat random, so it's a very small sample size. But hey, it is a sample size. Last summer, we went to the Intercontinental Washington, D.C., The Wharf, which is an IHG property. And on the nights that I selected, it was $935 for 2 nights. If you were to book that directly through IHG instead, comparing apples to apples, so we have cancelable to cancelable, member rate to member rate, $892. So what did I say the other one was? $935, $892. We've got about a $45 difference here. So you are overpaying by about $45, but let's say you give the resort credit full value, that's $100. And then I'm pretty sure on their website I saw breakfast, if you pay full price, was priced at $35 per person. So breakfast for 2 would be $70. Double that because it's 2 nights. So $140. So you got about $240 in value. So would I overpay by $45 to get $240 in value? Yeah, that's worth doing. But I'm not going to pay, even if I do subtract that off the top and I'm down in the $600 or $700 range, I'm not going to pay that much. So it's still way out of my price range. I can't afford to save that much money. Next example here is back in Edinburgh, the Intercontinental Edinburgh, the George by IHG, a more reasonable $682 with the edit. And that's inclusive of taxes, fees, and everything for 2 nights. If I book direct, it's $663. So it's a lot cheaper. What did we say this was? $682. 663. No, not a lot cheaper. It's slightly cheaper. It's like $20 cheaper. So again, I would gladly overpay $20 to get $240 in value if the starting price was more like $300 or $400. These are a little too costly for my blood, but it just depends on the kind of traveler you are. If you're someone who would be booking the Intercontinental, the George, and paying the cash rate anyway, then yeah, you are getting some decent value. And then back to Washington, D.C., the most reasonable one I found, and this was very off-peak. This was like a Tuesday to a Thursday in the middle of December, something like that. The Eaton, D.C., although why is it only 3.5 stars? That's a little concerning. $392, just a little under $400. If I book that direct, we're talking right at $400. So it's actually $8 cheaper than booking direct. So that one would definitely be worth doing because not only is the price almost the same, It's actually a little better. You're getting the $100 hotel credit, the amenity credit, the breakfast credit, that kind of stuff. So you can work it out, but based on my small sample size, this last one is the only one that I would think is really even in the range of affordability. So am I going to go to Washington, D.C. in the middle of December? Probably not. But, depending on your travel style and a variety of factors, you could make it work. I just don't think it's going to make it work for me kind of thing. The good news, though, is my annual fee hits, I believe, in July. And anyone who hits before the end of October gets a year to kind of test drive it from October through next summer. So maybe I'll find one that's in that $400-ish range and give it a shot, and we'll see what happens. That's TBD. So there's the first look at the edit, or at least my first look at the edit. Catching up on comments here just a wee bit. Some people thanking each other and that kind of stuff. Multiple people, including Ken NG, saying no issues with the electronics. Yuri's thinking about upgrading to the CSR today. Are you trying to lock in before the new annual fee hits on Monday? Worth considering, I will say that. Dennis Dunn asks about pints of English ale. Well, maybe we'll cover that. Maybe we won't. Ian says, I'd like to try and use the edit credits for a Four Seasons. Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. Walk like a man. Yuri says, I think I'll be able to get more than $795 out of those credits. Depending on how you use it, maybe. Ghosts of Edinburgh. I know that Edinburgh is supposed to be like a town with haunted stuff, so maybe that's what you're referencing here. Vincent says, I stayed at the Balmoral when I went to Edinburgh, booked 2 nights through fine hotels and resorts, came out to around $600 total, so around $300 per night. Thank you for that data point. Frequent Miler did the comparison already. That's all right. You got the Frequent Miler comparison. Now you got the infrequent Miler comparison. Is it true that edit hotels are going to be bookable with 2x UR points? That could soften the blow for a 2-night stay combined with a $250 credit. I've heard that said. I've heard, you can get 2x with their special boosty thing. So they're getting rid of the 1.5 on all things in the portal to just their special stuff having 2x. As it stands right now, you can mix and match points with cash. So if you could, for example, use just a hair over or right at $250 in cash and the rest with points, you're right. That would soften the blow. Would you be willing to try it? If allowed, you can do points plus cash at 2 cents per point like FM thinks you can. I'd be willing to try it, especially during my test drive phase. Thanks, TM. And TH is on board, says Saturday morning ritual. Celebrate. Indeed. Slamming down a $2 super chat. Celebrate, TH. Thank you so much. Yuri does want the old annual fee and cash out the benefits. And the edit will be bookable 2 cents per point. Guaranteed. Do you also guarantee, Yuri, that it'll be a mix of points and cash? You can also do $250 plus $300 for edit. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean now. So the $300 baked in travel credit. Yeah, but you get that one way or another. So whether you use it on that or a rental car or a cabin in West Virginia, you're using it. All right. That's all for the Chase Sapphire Reserve portion of today's program. Let's move on. I've done a segment in the past called We Don't Take Amex. This is not quite the same, but I went to a place called Hammer Medical. Actually, they changed their name to New Cara Medical yesterday. They sell prescriptions, durable medical goods, those kind of things. And there's this big sticker on the counter that says, we do not accept Apple Pay or e-payments. And when I kind of mumbled it in frustration, there was no one at the desk. I kind of was like, oh, we don't take Apple Pay, I guess. There was a cashier like 15 feet away. And she's like, yeah, I wish we did, because a lot of people ask about it. And I'm like, exactly. But I realized the cashier is probably not the boss. Didn't really affect me, but that's frustrating a little bit. QC Man celebrates 15 months of membership. Whoa, thank you for being on board, QC Man, and for your patronage. How many UR points do you have saved up for the 1.5x? Between my wife and I think we've got around 120,000 Chase points right now. Are you thinking between now and October when I can blow through my 1.5x? Don't know that I will, but perhaps. If that's what you meant, great. If not, please clarify. Mertz Points and Miles is catching up at twice the normal speed as usual. Can't miss the Dugroz data points. I agree. It's fun to watch live streams on fast forward, and then you, like, I'm talking really fast, then all of a sudden you catch up and it's back to normal speed. Gold Homer says they're mad they didn't get the Altitude Reserve before it was discontinued. I'm not sure who they is, but haters gonna hate. Yuri says Samsung Pay should work on older phones. It's an older phone, sir, but it checks out. Well, that place won't get your USB-R patronage. Oh, now I'm getting it. Gold Homer says that Hammer Medical is mad they didn't get the Altitude Reserve before it was discontinued. And you're right, QC, man. That place will not get my USB-R patronage. Ian says I've got a sad amount of chase points right now, only 70K. Yeah, we always wish it was more. All right, moving around the horn here, continuing on. 60 people on board. That's a pretty good clip. Keep clicking thumbs up to make more people come in and watch. Make people watch. Somebody told me, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Mike Newland, that he signed his father-in-law up to watch my channel. Thank you for recruiting friends and family. I've been mentioning for the last 2 or 3 live streams that there was an opportunity to buy choice points on sale. Some people were targeted for 20, 30, or 40. There's even one person who said 50. My target amount was 30, and I kept debating it, and it expired on June 20th. So this deal ended yesterday. I apologize if you haven't done it yet. It's too late now. But I did go ahead and pull the trigger and do a little bit. Now, part of the logic was I was thinking about wanting to transfer my chishi. I don't know why I can't say the word. Transfer my city points to choice, which are 1 to 2. But that's only if you have the Strata Premier. And I canceled my Strata Premier several months ago. So now I have it as a junior transfer partner on my Rewards Plus card or my custom cash. So it's only 1 to 1.5. And I wanted to do this before my Rewards Plus 10% back benefit ends, which I don't remember exactly when, but it's sometime in July. But I did the math and figured out that with this sale going on, I actually end up with more points if I just cash them out, get the 10% rebate of points, and then buy choice points. It actually came out better. Plus, I get to use a card and get at least some points on the card. I ended up using my American Express Blue Business Plus for 2x, if you're wondering. So I did pull the trigger and do that. Not a ton, but a few. I decided to lock in 16,000 choice hotel points, and it cost me $115.36. Here's a picture of the receipt, and I did the math for you down here at the bottom of the screen. It's 0.721 cents per point, plus there was a Rakuten for 2%. So I went ahead and took advantage of that. So yeah, that ended up being better than just transferring from city to choice at 1 to 2. So always do the math, see which works out better. So what am I going to do with my 16,000 choice hotel points? I don't really know for sure, but I did highlight an example last week when I was talking about Mr. Roz's favorite redemptions, being the Strawberry hotels, which is sort of like a Norwegian, or I should say Scandinavian branch of choice hotels. Used to be called Nordic Choice. And interestingly, the same hotel I stayed at in 2023, which at the time was called the Clarion Hotel Odin, is now called the Home Hotel Odin. It seems like a lot of their hotels they've rebranded. So even within Strawberry, they have their own divisions, but they're still in some sort of collusion, I guess you'd say, with Choice. You can book through the Choice website and all that. And you'll notice down here it says meals included. Enjoy breakfast, fika, and dinner. Fika is sort of like an afternoon snack, like coffee cake or something like that. But dinner is actually dinner. You get an evening meal. So that would be not even 16,000. It would be 12,000 points for, there's no picture of it here, but a room that has basically like a queen bed for mom and dad, and then some bunk beds off to the side, narrower than a twin mattress if you think like camping style. My boys didn't love it, but if you had younger kids like under the age of 14, they would probably be cool with it and actually think it's kind of fun. So you can fit your whole family in this room for 12,000 points. So I bought in at, well, let me get to the next screen. That's how much it would be. So a Swedish krona is roughly 10 times more than $1. So let's just do some quick and dirty math and say it's $207. Divide that by 12,000 points, and you've got 1.72 cents per point. So if I bought in at 0.71 and redeemed at 1.72, that's not bad at all. I think you come out pretty good. So I've got some use for those choice points in mind, certainly. Don't know if I'm going back to Sweden anytime soon, but maybe. I'm going to catch up on my comments right now. Dennis Dunn says United has a bonus offer if you use e-payments 5 times in a month for the summer. That's good to know. Yuri says I have around $3 million in UR right now. I'm guessing that's 3 million points, not $3 million worth of points. Oh, yeah. Next was a clarification. 3 million UR points. Whoa, that's a lot. I will give you a big hat tip for that. QC Man says you don't have to blow through the points. As long as you have the points on your account by October, you can use them at 1.5 for 2 more years. Oh, that's right. Thank you. Okay, so with the Chase Sapphire Reserve changes, as long as you earn the points by October 26, you can still use them for up to 2 more years. And am I correct that during that 2-year period, because it'll know I'm sort of a grandfathered member, I get the better of 1.5 or the 2? Is that right? I think that's right. I'm going to move my camera down a little, block some of those British flags, but my chin kept getting cut off by the text. Ian says I'd be on vacation right now if I had 3 million UR points. Luke from Luke's Points and Miles has arrived. What up, boys? What up, Luke? Good to see you on board. By the way, Yuri says, Custom Cash can't share points, and the only transferable partner for CCC is Shop Your Way at 1 to 10. Oh, well, I stand corrected then. It must have been a transfer partner on my Rewards Plus card, which will turn into the Strata card soon. Nugan says, WYM can't transfer points to other members. Seems like we have some debate here on exactly what's going on. Mike from LA says, I can upgrade a Freedom to CSR if I already have a CSR, essentially locking in 2 CSRs with the old annual fee. Probably, but I don't know that for sure. I'm going to skip ahead on some of these comments about transferring around your choice points or city points. TM Cowling says to Mike, as long as you have a 10K credit limit on that Freedom, yes, you can do the upgrade. New Again says, I need that Blue Business Plus more than ever in Arnold's Predator voice. Come on, Amex, target me. Come target me. Source King says, I'm going to Sweden in August. Great. I know Source King has some Swedish heritage. So that's cool. Yuri BSU, not to be confused with Yuri G, says, hotel named after the Nordic god of war. Nice. Choice Hotels has for sweet spot that worked well for me. Alas, it's hard to earn city points to enjoy the 1 to 2 transfers. And QC Man says, I'm correct that you get the best of both worlds with the grandfathered UR points for 2 years. So you get the better of 1.5 or 2. It's sort of like when the teacher lets you retake a test. If you do better, you get the new score. If not, worst case scenario, you get your old score. All right. Thank you, everyone. I got a lot more data to go. Maybe not a lot more, but some more. This is purely frivolous, but worth mentioning. I asked my diehards about 2 weeks ago, when do you think wholly generated AI movies will become mainstream? I know this has nothing to do with points and miles. I'm just getting more freaked out by AI. And the choices were 2028 or before, 2029 to 2031, or 2032 or later. And the majority thought it was 2032 or later. I think it'll be a little sooner than that. I'd probably go with one of the first two. If I had to pick, I'd say in that 2029 to 2031 range. So this is the time to plug becoming a Dugroz diehard. You'll see a lot of people like QC Man, like Source King, with funny little symbols next to their name. They are channel members. They are the Dugroz diehards, and either they were gifted a membership or they joined. It's only $3 a month, so feel free to join, binge all of my members-only videos, and then cancel anytime. I have over 50 members only videos now. So if you want to hear the more juicy stuff like interacting with normies, me ranting and complaining, some things from my personal life, my working life, manufactured spending, do those topics interest you? If they do, become a channel member. Again, $3 a month, cancel anytime. Find the join button on any of my videos and click it. As if right on cue, Mike Newland, Santa Claus himself, gifts 20 Dugroz Reports memberships. Whoa, you did it again, Mike. Thank you so much. Celebrate, celebrate. That's the equivalent of a $60 donation. Man, I really, really appreciate that. Yuri G says, I'm on vacation every month. I know you said you're kind of retired and a professional MSer now. Gold Homer says, maybe Dugroz has been AI this whole time. I do think there's a channel out there that is pretending to be a real person that is AI. They don't ever show their face. And maybe if you become a member, I'll talk about that sometime. Way to go, Mike. Thank you. From Green Knight and Santa Newland is what QC Man acknowledges. Yes, Santa, indeed. Thank you so much. It's time for the U.S. Bank segment of today's program. Excuse me, folks. Got a little nose issue going on. I got an in-person data point here. I've actually got a couple in-person data points. This is a letter from U.S. Bank, and you'll see up here it says U.S. Bank. Right here it says Altitude Reserve. And here's the letter they wrote to me last week. It says, congratulations. We're writing to inform you that due to the exceptional way you've handled your account, we have increased your credit limit to $21,000. It was $16,000. So the Altitude Reserve, they just randomly decided to increase my credit line from $16,000 to $21,000. Didn't request it. It just kind of happened. Do I want to get into any of these other ones? Not well. I'll mention one right now. Actually, this is not U.S. Bank. This is a letter from American Express on my dad's Hilton card. It's just a regular Hilton Honors card. And this is kind of weird. It says, we're writing to provide you with information regarding the account referenced above. And it says, effective July 17th, we're increasing your APR. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 18%, and they're raising it up to 25.24%, which I thought was interesting. I think this is a targeted increase in APR. I don't think it was an everybody APR increase. My parents are paying out the nose for assisted living and care and supplies right now. And due to a cash flow issue, there was 1 month where they had to carry a balance for a little bit. And I think Amex thought, ooh, this guy pays off his credit card every month in full until today. Time to raise the APR. A very temporary issue, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, that's good for now. Back to the U.S. Bank segment of today's program. First of all, some unfortunate news related to the U.S. Bank Altitude Go, hat tip Doctor of Credit. And this is information we kind of knew about. The U.S. Bank Altitude Go card is adding a foreign transaction fee. So back in January, it was announced that starting April 15th, existing cardholders would have this. But now, starting in August 15th, 2025, even grandfathered cardholders will get a foreign transaction fee. So U.S. Bank perhaps trying to make up for some of their lost revenue on the Smartly card. Maybe it doesn't really affect me, and there's lots of cards that could be used. I don't even have this card, but kind of it portends of some unfortunate things. And then in addition to other potential unfortunate things coming down the road from U.S. Bank, U.S. Bank sent out a survey to some, not all, Altitude Reserve card holders last week about new card changes to the Altitude Reserve. These questions focused on how much would you be willing to pay for certain benefits, if they would be willing to open a bank account or investment account alongside the card, and the ability to transfer points. I would be very interested in the ability to transfer points from other Altitude cards, like the Altitude Go, Altitude Connect, over to my Altitude Reserve, but none of those other things interest me. So here's to hoping they leave the card alone, but again, doesn't portend great things. I did not get this survey. Raise your hand if you did, if you want to add any detail to the discussion on that. Now, although those are some unfortunate things, US Bank does love me and they continue to show their love for me. So I've been looking for a little while here for a card that meets some very specific criterion. I want a card that has a sign-up bonus. It's a business card that does not report to personal credit because I don't want to hinder my 524 strategy, which I have going on, and is 0% interest for a year or more and earns some kind of reward on purchases. The US Bank Triple Cash Rewards fits all those bills. It has a $500 sign-up bonus after spending $4,500 in 3 months. It has 1% cash back on everything, 3% cash back on gas, EV, office supply, and cell phone providers. It has that weird $100 credit on QuickBooks, those kind of things. Not too worried about that part. So this fit the bill and everything, but I thought, I've had this card before. They probably won't let me churn it. But I took a flyer last week. I applied for it. Didn't get approved right away. Got the email of like, we need to think this over for a couple days. Sure enough, almost exactly 3 days later, I woke up and in my email inbox, it said, congratulations, Douglas, on your new credit card. And I was like, they approved me even though I'm churning it? And they sure did. And not only did they approve me, they gave me a $24,700 credit line. So if I want to, I'll really be able to take advantage of that 0% APR for a year. Now, the purchase that we have coming up is probably between $2,000 and $3,000. And I just want to cash flow, spread that out over a year. I really like doing that when I have the opportunity to, while I can earn a sign-up bonus, even better. So yeah, absolutely. That's a good deal for me. So my newest card hasn't showed up in the mail yet, but will hopefully next week. The US Bank Business Triple Cash Rewards. And then when I applied for it, just a little credit side note, it did report to TransUnion for me. I live in Iowa. This is US Bank. And dropped my score by 2 points. So I went from 801 down to 799. Equifax holding steady at 818. I'm not obsessive over credit scores or anything like that. Depending on where I am with balances and applications. And when I say balances, just to clarify, since I got into the game back in 2019, I have not paid 1 penny in credit card interest. So the only time I ever carry a balance is on 0% offers. Now I have a mortgage. I have a personal line of credit, and I've paid interest on those, but I've never paid any interest whatsoever on credit cards in the last 5 years. But sometimes I have 0% balances. So if it's a personal one, that might drop it a little. It kind of fluctuates anywhere from like 720 to 820, and I'm not all that concerned within that range. All right, did I miss anything? Nope. All right, I'm ready to catch up on comments at this moment. Where were we? Here we are. Dennis Dunn says, manufactured spending at Tractor Supply store with gift cards? Question mark. Not in my videos, but that might be in the future. Yuri says, I come back to MS every month, but I'm mostly on vacation. QC Man says, there was definitely an AI channel that was directly ripping off credit card YouTube content. It basically copied a Stan the Credit Frog video on the US Bank Altitude Reserve when it was still an option. Oi, don't like that. The video I was thinking of has nothing to do with credit cards. JP Knowledge has arrived. How you doing, JP? I have a feeling Aeroplan will nerf the pay yourself back on their card. Chase and Amex changing their portal redemptions. Banks are moving away. They've already added a cap. How much longer do you think it will last? Well, I had been asked this same question before, and I said I don't think they're taking it away because of the cap. I think they got around people abusing it. So now the fact that you can only do it 200,000 points a year, which is a cash equivalent of 2,500, I feel like they've put their security protocol in place. For example, people could abuse the 5X on the Ink Cash, but they capped that at 25,000 a year. So Chase seems to be looser about it than other issuers, but I could be wrong. For example, I don't think they put a cap on their new 2X on various properties in the portal thing. Is there? If there is a cap, let me know. So I think the pay yourself back on Aeroplan will be around at least another 3 or 4 years, but I've been wrong in the past. Ian says, are there destinations that your children would like to go to that you aren't as willing to go to? I can't think of any right now. I know there's some in reverse where my wife and I want to go, but the children and I don't want to. I think there's a question about that in the community tab section, so I'll come back to that. Yuri G says, I go with children sometimes. QC Man gifted 1 Dugroz Report membership. Thank you, Quality Control. Celebrate, celebrate. I really appreciate it. Yuri says, I charged $15 on triple cash recently in the software category and then received a statement with a $0 balance. Interesting. Luke says, I did a members only video on the triple cash. It's the new ink train. You can get it over and over again. I didn't know that, Luke. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that information. Ian says, Anthony Venture's doing a live about that car this afternoon. That car, or did you mean the CSR? We'll find out. Luke says a $750 offer comes around as well. Interesting. New Again says that Arnold was cold, gave me shivers. You the man, Doug. Hopefully we get some singing too today. Well, if I have an opportunity, I'll definitely bust out the vocal pipes. Cesar has arrived and says, mi hermano. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Yuri just got the Aeroplan card a few days ago. Hope you like it. QC Man says, I got the U.S. Bank survey. One question asked if I would prefer to have transfer partners. They asked if there's any improvements I wanted the USBR, and I made it clear I didn't want them changing it. I mean, if they keep it exactly the same, but add transfer partners, I'd be good with that. Actually, if they kept it the same, but just jumped the annual fee from $425 up to $500, added transfer partners, added the ability to transfer in from the Connect and Go, I'd be good with it. But the general gist of how it works, I want people to leave alone. New Again did not get the survey. I don't want transfer partners or bank accounts from them, but they could get smart with the Smartly program, and I'd sign up. Yeah, in order to get everything that we love about it, I'm wondering if transfer partners would ruin it. Either way, not really our choice. And I wonder how much they pay attention to the surveys in terms of what people want, or if they're really just gauging how much business are we going to lose. We've got 70 on board. That's not bad. Please keep clicking thumbs up, dropping those super chats, no matter how little. 99-cent super sticker, $1.49. I gave Sledge $1.49 a few days ago. Anything helps draw attention in. I appreciate it. It's time for the Dugroz Eat segment. I think Ian K asked me about breakfast, and we're going to share. I'm sharing the wrong tab here. Share this tab instead. This is not a breakfast food, really, but my friend Brian and I have eaten at a Mexican restaurant here in the greater Des Moines area that has this dish that is pollo. Pollo is Spanish for chicken. And you got your chicken, you got your mushrooms, drowning in cheese sauce, just the way I like it. Rice, guac, cheese, tomatoes, ranch, tortillas. Oh, man, that hits the spot every time. So there's your Get Hungry segment of the day. Let's talk a little bit about Amex, Hawaiian, and Alaska. So I had a segment, what was it, about a month ago, where I was trying to decide, do I go all in with my wife's Amex points to go over to Hawaiian and end up at Alaska? And 2 or 3 people suggested splitting the difference, transferring some but not all. And that's ultimately where I settled. So she had around 250, 240,000 points. I transferred out 40,000 to Hawaiian with the excise tax. That ended up being $24. And remaining point balance after all that was 201,000. So 40,000 points left. Amex went over to Hawaii. After they arrived at Hawaii, it sat there for an overnight stay, just a quick, repositioning flight. And then the Hawaiian points were exchanged over to Alaska. And then just to show you, they were moved from my wife's account to my account. And here's where things stand right now. I had mentioned I had booked a flight from Minneapolis to DC as a repositioning flight. Found something better out of Des Moines, so I canceled those. Yes, I lost $37.50 in partner booking fees, but it was worth it. Got back 45,000 points from that. And then here's the transfer right there. So that puts me presently at, it's kind of hard to see, 357,000 Alaska miles to play with. And I'm probably just going to be content and sit right there, 350-ish thousand Alaska miles. I will probably predominantly use this for domestic on American, most likely. There's direct to Washington, D.C., to Dallas, to New York on American. So I've got some options. some of the places I'm most likely to head out of from the greater Des Moines International Airport. Some of those are as low as 7,500 points. I think Des Moines to Dallas, 7,500 if you're willing to do economy, 15,000 in business class, some are 12,500. So if I've got 350,000 Alaska miles, I keep hitting the wrong button on my calculator. Let's say I did nothing but 15,000 business class one-way flights. That's enough for 23 flights. So I think I'm positioned okay enough for a while that I don't want to go above and beyond that. I don't want to do any more speculation beyond that point. Dennis Dunn says Chase has an in-branch offer for Freedom Unlimited, 5% back on gas and groceries per year. That is a great offer. If someone was a newbie or even just had the option to pick up a new one, I would encourage that, especially for people that don't want to go all in on learning transfer partners and things. That's a great one. It'll probably come online and have referrals in the not too distant future. QC Med says, how was that Poyo pronunciation, Cesar? Poyao, something like that. I probably didn't nail it, and I apologize for that. I did take 2 years of Spanish in high school, but a lot of it didn't absorb very well. Moving on from the Alaska segment, how about something else on the American Express side of things? On my dad's account, I spotted this, which is actually quite helpful given how he spends money. This is on his Hilton Honors card against the no annual fee Hilton Honors card. Spend $4,000 or more, not just at Hilton, but on anything. Get 18,500 additional Hilton bonus points up to 3 times, and you get until the end of the year. When you're dropping $6,000 a month on assisted living alone, that'll be pretty easy to make. I should get all 3 of those. So that would be, what's 18,000 times 3? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 54,000 Hilton points on top of the 3X being earned. I like it. And then down below, you can also see an Apple Pay offer. Spend 3 times using Apple Pay, earn $10. I've done this in the past where I go to a gas station, like put in a gallon of gas and do that 3 times and then get my $10. So didn't show up on any of my cards, just my dad's, but keep an eye out in the event you have that. If you have a Hilton card, go ahead and try to look it up. QC Man says, I don't get the Amex excise tax. The other banks aren't in the business of losing money, so why don't they also charge this tax if Amex claims the government is charging it? I agree with you 100%. My speculation is that it is a very, very minimal tax. And the other banks are like, it's so small, it's so infrequent. Let's just absorb it. Let's say we're selling points to whatever currency it is, and they pay us 0.6 cents per point. If we take 0.2 off the top for taxes, oh well. I think Amex is just stingy. QC Man wishes he got that Apple Pay offer. Sean D's on board. Good morning. D Green says, my Surpass offers are never that good. Isn't it always like the offers are on the cards you don't want? Like book a Hilton stay of $500 or more, get $100 back. But it's not on your Hilton Surpass or Hilton Aspire. It's on like your Blue Cash every day or something like that. And that, folks, is by design. I almost guarantee it. Cesar says, Dr. Doug will be rocking the most expensive premium travel in the game. Quite fancy. Travel card. Will I, though? Will I? I don't know if Filmo's on board yet. He's already aware of this because I let him down gently, just in case, to be on the safe side. But it's time to share some very disappointing news with the rest of you. My precious and dear Golden Ponies credit card. I got an email that says, coming now to your mailbox, your reissued card. Haven't got it yet. But what they're telling me is that my Visa signature issued by Wells Fargo is going to change from looking like this to looking like this. Why? Cue the Nancy Kerrigan voice. Yeah, so I'm bummed about that. There is a feature on Wells Fargo's site for certain cards. If they're more than like 2 years old, you can do a design studio where you make it look like anything you want. I've even got like an old 767 jumbo jet or something like that on my debit card. So what I'm hoping is once I've had this card, once I activate it, and I think you have to have it a month, I can go back and redesign it, and I'll just put some ponies on it. So take that, Wells Fargo. But yeah, that was very difficult news. QC Man says no, and Cesar says, dang, no more golden ponies. Yeah, it's a bummer indeed. Speaking of Wells Fargo, someone on one of the Discords, I don't remember who, I don't remember which one, it might have been Kid Cat, don't quote me on that, brought to my attention there is a Wells Fargo offer right now on many people's accounts for 20% cash back on gas, a single purchase up to $100. So spend $100, get $20 back. Well, you know what gas stations sell? Gift cards. So my plan is to go to a gas station, buy an Amazon gift card for $100 and get a $20 statement credit. So great. I'll use my autograph card and also make 3X. So just make sure it's a gas station that codes as gas. If you live in the Midwest, Casey's General Store will suit the bill just fine. They sell Amazon gift cards. This graphic was taken 5 days ago. So it says 10 days left, but it's really only 5 days left, at least in my particular case. New Again says, bruh, I hate when banks nerf the card design. Looking at you, Capital One. What card did Capital One ruin? The Saver. It's a little less orangey. It's more of a pumpkin now. I like the old orange better, but it's still okay. JP says, I just love the cheap cancellation with Alaska Miles. I've had to cancel 4 different flights this year, and I've booked with Alaska. Losing $12.50 is annoying, but not the worst thing. Yeah, I just looked up the cancellation policy on Air France KLM with reward flights, and I think, don't quote me on this, I think it's 75 euros for a cancellation, which is going to be somewhere between $85 and $100. So yeah, $12.50 certainly ain't bad. I didn't bring it up as a data point, but Stephen Pepper from Frequent Miler pointed out that the Flying Blue award space has improved. Like in, just as an example, Chicago to Amsterdam, I think in August there was like 13 days available at $60K. In October, I saw a date. So if you're looking for some Flying Blue opportunities, there you go. Yuri G says, I got 2 for 20% gas and 2 15% for groceries. And on all of that, I got 5% on Kroger. Awesome. That's a great way to stack it. Let me just look here in a little more details. I think mine, it doesn't show the details. I'm pretty sure mine was just a single use. I'm highly confident. So I'm glad yours is better than mine. Cesar says, my Saver is turning black and I don't even use it much. That's sort of like the Statue of Liberty. You know, it started out like a bronze type color, and then it turned pitch black, and then it turned green from the salt water oxidizing the chemicals, or however chemistry works. I did poorly in chemistry. New Again says, years ago, Capital One, you could upload your own card image, also had an option to select sports teams. Yeah, I actually did that. My oldest card, his name is Carl the card, who's 25 years old, 25 and a half nowadays, is presently a Venture X, but back in the day, he was a Capital One card, back when they didn't have any rewards, and you could pick from you could upload your own, or you could pick from 100 different designs. I picked one with the Statue of Liberty on it. Ironic, considering we were just discussing the Statue of Liberty. Ian M says, addiction update, just passed 500,000 in gold. Oh, that's interesting. I think Ian is referencing buying gold at Costco and reselling it. Yuri says, I don't think you can use 20% gas on service stations. You mean like you have to use actual pump in the tank kind of thing? All right. Wells Fargo has triggered for me at gas stations in the past. Man, if we ever did a segment on most awesome deals ever, back before I had the autograph card, I just had the Golden Ponies card. Wells Fargo used to have deals that are a little different than the way they did now. You loaded them onto your card in a different spot. And they had one that was 10x points on groceries, and it was limited to a certain amount. I think it was like $100 per, but it was per transaction, not total. So and it happened to align, the stars and planets all aligned perfectly. That was when Hy-Vee was doing one of their crazy deals on Visa gift cards where you could get like $15 off the purchase price. So I was just buying prepaid Visa cards over and over and over again, earning 11 Wells Fargo points per dollar, and getting like on the net, they were paying me $7 to buy the cards. So that was a good memory. I don't think that one's ever coming back. Did Capital One charge extra for personal designs like Credit One does? At the time, they did not. JP says, yep, I had to cancel an Air France flight last year. Not the biggest fan of their miles anymore, although I did fly the new business class in the bulkhead, and it had first class space for no added charge. What does the word bulkhead mean? I first ran across it reading Star Wars books in the 90s, and based on my dictionary looking back then, I thought it was just like an upright support beam. So I thought it was like the bulkhead is like, you're sitting next to a supporting wall. All right, let's look up Google and see what it says.
Bulkhead. Bulkhead.
A dividing wall or barrier between compartments in a ship, aircraft, or other vehicle. Okay, so if you're in a boat, these are the bulkheads. Okay, so JP was sitting in the bulkhead, meaning you were in the wall. I wonder if in the world of airlines it means something different. This has been your Dugroz literacy segment of the day. That bulkhead seat in the front with Air France is great, JP. Cool. Fargonaut has arrived. How you doing? I went through all the members-only content. Lots of good stuff in there, Doug. I did it on my gifted membership from Mike Newland, making it rain in here for weeks on end. Thanks, Mike. Awesome. I do notice that my members-only views have gone way up. So thanks to mostly Mike, but others as well. I appreciate you, Mike. I appreciate you bringing the data point, Fargonaut. Glad you like those. Yuri says, I remember I got a bunch of Amex offers on Smart and Final. I did buy a lot of $100 Visa gift cards and got $900 in cash back. I don't know what Smart and Final is. Is that a store? Yuri says, that's back when Kates were still available at Walmart. Don't know what that is. Ian says, bulkhead is the wall that separates classes and cabins. So when my kids and I jokingly call like intra-European business class curtain class. So like in that level, they have a curtain instead of a bulkhead. Or on the flight I had on Delta on my way to Albany, New York, where I had to sit in the worst seat ever. And they had like this little flap of leather about this big that hung down. So you didn't have to look at first class. That was their equivalent of the bulkhead. But in bigger planes, it's an actual wall. Although I think it's a breakaway wall so they can readjust it. So apparently with Air France, there's a seat like right in front of that. Is that the one they call the honeymoon seat, or is that Lufthansa? I can't remember. Cesar says, my wife and I returned from France that way in an A350-900. Describe it more, Cesar. Is it just one particular seat, or do you just mean all of their first class seats? New Again says, bulkheads are used to conceal wiring, pipes, or ductwork, etc. Okay, I'm learning things. I'm learning. All right, so now we've had the Amex segment, we've had the US Bank segment. It's time for the Chase Aeroplan segment. I closed my sharing, so I'll have to reopen that. Bear with me just a second here, folks, while I hit all the buttons. Okay, there we go. Somebody wanted singing. There, you got it. That's my Herb Alpert song of the day. A 20% transfer bonus to Air Canada Aeroplan from Chase stacked with the cardholder bonus. We already know about this. I've mentioned it before. That's going through July 17th. So you still have just under a month to decide what you're going to do. I'm going to do a transfer both from my card and my wife's, but I already did the Player 2 after carefully calculating how many we need and how long I think we're going to need it. Hopefully they'll have one by this time next year. I decided to do enough to get us through the end of the year. So on my wife's card, I went with 70,000 points. That'll get her well up and above 200,000. And you can see here, I got the 20% transfer bonus that Chase does automatically. And then I got a 10% bonus for being a Chase Aeroplan World Elite MasterCard card holder. If you ever do this and you see this one post right away and you don't see this one, don't be concerned. For some reason, it takes an extra 2, 3, 4 business days after this one posts for this one to post, even though it'll backdate it to the same date. So don't be worried if the 10% doesn't show up right away. It will. So what's that add up to? 84 plus 7 is 91,000 new Aeroplan points that my wife has ready to, boom, pay herself back. If my math is correct in my brain, and I'm pretty sure that it is. And then I'll go ahead and finish the Dugroz data points here because I've only got 2 left. I had talked about a few times the idea of, instead of relying on my Chase Sapphire Reserve to provide the top-of-the-line travel insurance like emergency evacuation, like medical and dental, just buying coverage. Back in 2023, we did that because at the time I had a CSP, not a CSR. And it was like $400 for the whole year. That was through Allianz. I got an advertisement for some no-name company I didn't realize, so I looked it up, didn't have what I wanted, but also there was an ad for Berkshire Hathaway underneath it, so I looked it up, and if I was to cover my family of 4 just for my international vacation later this summer for 12 days or something like that, it would have cost $168. Here's a different way of showing it, and they have different levels. This is called Exact Care, which is not the lowest level. It's not the bottom of the barrel, but it's one notch up. So it's the lowest level that includes emergency evacuation as well as emergency medical or dental. There is a premium level where you have $500,000 of emergency medical dental. I think this has 50,000. That's still more than Chase. And I figure enough to get to the point where I've already hit my out-of-pocket maximum for the year with my personal medical insurance, and enough to get me out of the country if I'm hiking through Wales and fall into a crag or something like that. Don't need it this time because I have the CSR, and I'll mention that a little later in the program. But just for the sake of comparison, if I'm thinking about paying $1,000 in annual fees to the CSR, maybe I could use 168 of that $1,000 just to buy travel insurance when I need it. Just a thought process. And that's the end of the Dugroz data points for the day. So I will catch up on comments and then we'll dive into the theme of the day. JP says, nice, Cesar. The space is massive. Surprised they don't charge more. Cesar says the bulkhead seat is the first row of business class in our case. QC Man drops a $1.99 super sticker. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Quality Control. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Ian says, people typically want bulkhead seats because they think that they have more leg room, which they're usually designed to hold a bassinet for a baby. Oh, okay, so when we say a bulkhead seat, it's the first seat behind the wall. So either front row of first class, front row of business class, front row of premium economy. Is that what we mean when we say the bulkhead seat? Because I noticed on my Virgin Atlantic trip, when I was choosing the premium economy seat, the front row had the seats, and then in front of it was a rectangle with a picture of a baby in it, or a symbol of a baby, which I thought that's where the bassinet would go. Cesar says 2 middle seats, but the solo window seats also have more space in that front row. Cool, cool. I will say if you fly on a CRJ regional jet, don't pick, with Delta at least, probably any airline, don't pick the very first row of premium economy unless you want your knees to be squished together the whole time. David Gomez says Wells Fargo had an offer for 20% back from gas and 15% back on groceries, both up to $100 of spend. Oh, awesome. Wish I'd gotten that targeted. That was used my Journey card. Autograph Journey. Okay. Ian says, but bulkhead is always near the kitchen or bathroom, so it's a trade-off. More room, more noise. Yeah, picking my Virgin Atlantic seats, I could have gone in the last row and maybe had some privacy from behind, but there was a water closet and not the full-blown kitchen, but a staging area for the flight attendants. And I thought, let's go at least a row or two further forward and get away from that. So My one and only experience with international business class, well, maybe two if you count there and back, we sat way up at the front, and it was nice, but there was more noise because like when they were preparing meals and stuff, we could hear it. On our trip, my goal in premium economy is to see if I can use a power outlet to put on my CPAP. I'm hoping so, but if not, I'll deal. And then fall asleep right away. So I'm just going to skip the meal and try to nap. JP says, flying in bulkhead seat with Air France is arguably the best way to fly across the Atlantic, excluding first class. Cesar thinks it was great and very good service from Air France. Sally Beery says, thanks for addressing insurance. You're welcome. I realize probably an entire topic on that would be beneficial, and I've been saying that for like 2 years. Someday I'll get to it. For some reason, we're dropping in viewership. We're down to 60. Normally, we're up higher than that by this time of day, but I'll press ahead. Source King says, I'm flying the throne seat on Swiss Air to Sweden. Does throne seat mean very first row, like middle, because it's coming to a point? Anthony Infantino says, I upgraded to the bulkhead on Singapore business. The flight attendants didn't mind since I was already sitting in business. So much more room. Great idea. Hey, Mertz comes through and slaps $4.99 on the table. Celebrate, celebrate. And ask this question. How much would your income have to increase for you to relax your travel must pay for itself rule? Do you like the game of making travel free? I've actually thought about that. So let's just say my YouTube channel completely takes off, and 3 years from now, I am making enough money to do it full time. Would I go away from my current model? And I reserve the right to change my mind, but right now I think no. I think dance with the girl who brung you. You know what I mean? It's kind of my thing. It's kind of what I'm known for. You know, the frugal dad, you know, points on a budget, the bougie lower class, whatever you want to call it. I'm upper middle class. So I don't think I would at all. I might say like I get to take one trip a year where I break my rules, sort of like the cheat weekend or something like that. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I really like the game of making it free. It excites me. Maybe if I went on like a charitable trip or something, then I would just pay. Yeah. So let me put some thought into that. Thank you, Mertz. That's great. John R. can't wait for his first Air France experience in a few weeks. Ooh la la. And Yuri says, I flew on Singapore first and I was alone there. That would be awesome. All right. So it is now time for our theme of the day. What is the theme of the day today? The theme of the day today is what's in my British wallet? Oh, good show. I wish my friend from the United Kingdom was on board today, but he's not. I apologize. I need to call a little bit of an audible here, folks. I'm about an hour and 15 minutes in, and my bathroom needs are bumping right up against the ceiling. So I'm going to go with the biology break now before the main event. So please show your willingness to stay tuned and support the channel in that way. You're just going to be staring at the wall for a little while here. Let me cue up the copyright-free music. Don't have anything on the record player, so it's going to have to be that. And I'll be right back in about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Hang in there. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the delay. A little asthma break. Nowhere is there a more happier crew than them what sing chim chim chiree chim chiroo. Chim chimney chim chim chiree chim chiroo. All right, so the theme of the day today is what's in my British wallet. And yes, it is warm here in Iowa, getting up into the 90s today. So I've shed my trademark collared shirt for just a plain old t-shirt. But we're going to dive in real quick to what's in my British wallet. And this is all about my family. Later this summer, we're going back to the United Kingdom. We've been there before, and we liked it so much and found a perfect deal on getting there. And I'm like, let's just do that again. Partial hat tip to JP Knowledge, who convinced me to look into premium economy on Virgin and found a great deal related to that. I think it was like $12,500 per person, something like that. I don't remember the exact number, from New York City to Manchester later this summer. Yuri says, does he mean international wallet? I'll have a disclaimer that'll explain that in just a few moments here. JP says, I always have headphones on, so noise never bothers me. Crying baby, I won't notice. I did for the first time smell the kitchen on Eva, and it wasn't pleasant. Food was great, but the kitchen smell was strong. QC Man wants everyone to hit the like button. And John says, does the British wallet come with fish and chips? Hopefully not in it. That'd be kind of yucky. Dennis Dunn says, that's one way to flush the segment. LOL. I do have this vision in my head. Hopefully it gives me peace knowing that there's 50 some people all going to the bathroom at the exact same time every Saturday morning. If the rest of the UK is similar to London, may not have to take any of the cards out of the Apple Wallet very often. Spoiler alert. I'm actually not going to be in London, so we'll find out, won't we? But let's go ahead and dive into this topic today. What is in my British wallet? Jolly good show. Last time we were in the United Kingdom, we did a lot of different stuff, and I'm going to go over a lot of those different things. You can look at them here on the screen, whether it's museums, renting a car, visiting castles, cathedrals, landmarks, historic buildings, dining in fun little cafes, eating delicious desserts. There was just a lot of stuff that went on, and I think we'll kind of talk over some of the main things that tend to happen. But yeah, sightseeing, having a vehicle and the gas or charging that goes along with that, seeing historical places, museums, food, these themes will probably come up over and over again. Now, went too far. My disclaimer is that we will be in England, Wales, and Austria during this trip. So yes, Yuri's comment about an international wallet was correct. I am fully aware that Wales and England are two different things. They are constituency countries of the United Kingdom, which also includes Scotland and Northern Ireland. And I am aware that Austria is yet a whole nother country, although Austria is only the last 3 days of the trip. It's to avoid that stinking massive value-added tax that the United Kingdom adds when you fly business or first class out of the UK back to America. So probably for the most part, anytime we go in the future for the rest of our lives, it'll be the United Kingdom plus something else, where you just take a cheap repositioning flight, reposition, then fly home business class from a country in Europe that's taxes are a little less impactful. So at the bottom, we've got the flag of England, the flag of Wales, and the flag of Austria. So disclaimer, I might by accident use the term England, Great Britain, and the United Kingdom interchangeably. I'm aware of the difference, but sometimes you just get going. By accident, I will conflate them. So I apologize in advance to any of my UK or European viewers if that is the case. Keep clicking thumbs up. We've got 64 people on board, but could definitely use more. I'm about to say, here we go. Now, one of these pictures is an actual photo taken by me, and one of them is not. Does anybody want to guess which one is the one actually taken by me? Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Bing, bing. Well, the picture that is closer to me, the picture of the fluffy clouds and the sheep, that is a picture that's actually taken by me. That is from the cabin we stayed at in Wales last time. The clouds were so fluffy, and the sheep make nice little white dots there. And then the picture on the right is actually AI generated. I told Adobe Spark, make a picture of two men. One is an American and one is his British tour guide walking up a hill to do something British. And that's what it came up with. So yes, you are correct, QC man. The one on our left is the one that I personally took. Thank you. Any interaction is good interaction. For the sake of making a comment, let me know in the comment section, what's your favorite landform? Is it mountains, plains, rivers, lakes, plateaus, buttes, deserts, high Sierras? If you've ever played the game SimCity 3000, you get to choose different landforms. So think of it like that. Goldhomer says, crap, I missed the second act of the show. Well, it's still going on. There's not a lot to miss. Cesar's a fan of rivers. My wife really likes open bodies of water. She likes kind of having big lakes and vistas and those kind of things. So I need to take a Frugal Points side note here. If you ever watched any of my not live videos, I have a series called Frugal Points where I drive in my car and talk about the philosophical side of points and miles. So a Frugal Points note here. Simplicity is worth something when we think about going internationally and having a wallet to use. So as an example, let's say I had 4 cards that worked out really well, or I had a stack of like 15 different credit cards. I'm going to use every single one of them, try to maximize every single one of them. Even if I could maximize point categories more, I feel like I would hit a point of diminishing returns. By the way, these 4 cards were chosen at random. Don't read anything into that. Just, I like the colors. As long as it's no foreign transaction fee and it's good enough value, simplicity is worth more than absolute maximization. For example, if I absolutely maximized everything and got an extra, $28 worth of points on $3,000 of spending, or I kicked it really simple and didn't get the extra $28 worth of points, I'm good with the simplicity part. Now, if it's an extra $400 worth of points, then I might be willing to push it a little bit more. Brian likes peninsulas. D Green likes mountains, but from the bottom, not climbing one. Goldhammer likes fjords. Mike likes beaches. Awesome. Yuri throws in his comments about what he would use in an international wallet, and you folks are all welcome to do that. I won't take the time to read each one individually, though. I'm trying to keep my live streams under 2.5 hours nowadays. So with that in mind, let's get into the first card. And the first card is the Wells Fargo autograph. This would be used for dining, gas, and EV charging. So that picture in the bottom right is a picture of, in my mind, I say sheep balls, although it's not really sheep balls. It's a lamb with 3 little balls made up of fried cheese soaked in some sort of special sauce on their own. And the funny story that goes with it is this was at a little tiny cafe in Wales. And after I placed my order, but before the meal came, I was like, oh man, I've seen sheep all week. Might as well eat one. The waitress / cook / proprietor, I think there's like 2 employees in the whole place. It was this awesome little cozy cafe in Paynes Castle, Wales. It was an older woman, like, probably a 65-year-old grandma, if not older. I said, do you have any steak sauce? And she said, oh, Mr. Rose, you don't need steak sauce. It comes with sauce. You'll be fine. And it was almost like your grandma scoldingly, like, no, you're not allowed to have steak sauce. I thought that was kind of funny. So this card features no foreign transaction fee. Of course, don't want to pay an FTF overseas. 3x on dining. So when I eat sheep balls or whatever, I'll be able to get 3 points per dollar. 3x on gas stations. And when I say gas station, in this case, I'm thinking snacks. So for the middle 4.5 days of our trip, we're going to have a rental car. We're leaving the Manchester area, driving to Wales. The area will be in a so remote, there's no public transit. So staying in a Vacasa cottages.com cabin like we did last time. So we do need a car for part of it. But when you have hungry teenage boys, the best place to get snacks is at a gas station. So might as well use it there. Now, to clarify, it also gets 3x on EV charging. And the reason why I highlighted that is in the picture at the bottom, you'll see a random guy charging his Hertz rental car that is an electric one. We will, in fact, have an electric vehicle. And I speculate the United Kingdom gives some sort of incentive for rental cars to rent out electric vehicles because the price was substantially cheaper for an EV SUV than a gas one. It was like $100 less. So I'm going to risk it. It's a little scary. I've never done a fully EV car before. I've done hybrids, but the cabin we're staying at does have a charging station. I emailed ahead and made sure it was compatible with the model of car we have. And they said something like, yeah, actually it's compatible with any EV manufactured after 2007 or something like that. So I can charge it overnight. And I asked a few people on Discord and whatnot and did some research. And the United Kingdom has lots of charging stations, I think way more than we do in America. So I should be fine. So hopefully it'll mostly be free at the cabin. But in the event I do have to stop and pay a little something at some point, at least I'll get 3x on it. Let me catch up on comments before I go to the next screen here. Did your wife yell at you for a 3-hour live? No, actually, it's more like my kids yell at me because they're always waiting to go out for lunch. And they're like, Dad, hurry up. D Green says, I agree. Simplicity when traveling is important. The Capital One Duo plus a hotel card is my primary setup. Yeah, I don't have the Saver. I've groused many times about how they won't let me product change my oldest card to a Saver. They won't let me change my second oldest card. I have a Venture X and a Venture One, making the Venture One completely useless. I'd love to product change that, but I think it's a Visa to MasterCard issue. Someday I might just go for it. Mike Newland says, same for us in relation to the comment about simplicity. QC Man says, you didn't buy your sheep balls at a gas station? Nope. They were at a restaurant. Ian says, have you ever rented or driven an electric vehicle before? Highly suggested you don't make your first time on vacation in a foreign country. No. So I guess I'm in big trouble, huh? I'll have to be very careful about that. If you want to hit me up offline and give me some pointers, let me know. Dennis Dunn says no transaction fee and dining for sure. I've driven a hybrid vehicle many times, but never an all electric. I've driven a hybrid vehicle in the mode where it's just running off battery for like an hour or two at a time. Never had any issues, but if there's something else I need to know, by all means, any input is appreciated. Next up is the everything else category. And in the everything else category, we have the Capital One Venture X card. I think we all know what the Venture X does, but let's review just in case. No foreign transaction fee, of course, that's going to be important. 2x on everything, and everything means everything. So that could include a lot of things like small shops and confectionaries. Here's a picture of me at a candy store. Now, this was actually in Sweden, but same idea. One of the towns we're going to, at least the plan is to go to a town called Chester. It's just south of Liverpool, about 45 minutes. And they have a lot of these kind of shops, like chocolate shops, candy shops, little souvenir shops, that kind of things. Now, I know sometimes confectionaries will code as grocery, and you might be thinking, but Doug, you could be getting 3x on groceries on other cards. What am I going to lose out on? If I get $20 worth of candy, I lost 20 points. That's worth 20 cents at a penny each, maybe 40 cents if you double it. So I'm not going to worry about losing out on 1x on a couple of $20 purchases if it happens to code as a confectionery or a grocery store. I'm just going to roll with it. Again, I come back to simplicity is greater than max points. There could be a few situations like entertainment, like confectionaries, where I lose out on points, but for the most part, I'm not going to worry about that because it's so little. I'd rather just have the simplicity, know for sure I have the no foreign transaction fee, etc. Don't press ahead yet. New Again said, I had an EV in England for 2 weeks. Meh, not as convenient as I hoped. Hopefully I'm okay for the 4 days. I might end up regretting it, but hey, if I regret it, it'll make a great video, won't it? Yuri says the city prestige is 5x on restaurants and no FTS if you have it. But I don't. Source King says that's Hemekval, the best candy store in Sweden. It might be. It was in Göteborg. That's all I know. I don't remember what it was called. It was within walking distance of the Hotel Odin, if that helps. Is that a chain, Source King, or is that a standalone thing? Yuri says Future Debit has no foreign transaction fee and gives 5% on groceries, variety stores, and transit. Awesome. Filmo says electric vehicles may be the devil. Good morning, everyone. QCMS says, Filmo, you missed out on the sad golden ponies news. Like I said, I broke the news to Filmo earlier, gently. Rodrigo says the most frustrating thing overseas is when stuff doesn't code as you expected. So I use the Venture X for everything now. Honestly, I could probably do that and mostly be fine, but it wouldn't make as exciting of a video, would it? So I press ahead. JC says, I'm having secondhand range anxiety about hearing about renting EVs abroad. Source King says, it's a chain and I recognize the bag. Oh, awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I did look up the locations of the various EV charging stations. Ian says, I sent you a message on Discord about range anxiety. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm open to tips. So I am certainly someone who is not one of those I have to be right kind of guys. Even if I need to switch it up last second, I will. We'll see. If worst case scenario, we're about an hour and 15 minutes away from Manchester, so I can always drive back and say, bro, this ain't working. Give me a new one. I guess that's not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is I get stranded on a gravel road somewhere. But then my Aeroplan card will kick in with its insurance and stuff. Next up, anything that might be travel. And when I said anything that might be travel, I thought of my favorite weird alternative band from the 90s, They Might Be Travel. Okay, it's actually They Might Be Giants, but they have a song that's called They Might Be Giants that goes, we can't be silent because they might be giants, and what are we going to do unless they are? So I thought, we can't be silent because they might be travel. Okay, that's really dumb. I apologize. Let's get rid of that. So anything that might be travel goes on my Aeroplan card. I almost said Wells Fargo Aeroplan. My Chase Aeroplan card. What happens with the Aeroplan card? Well, there's no foreign transaction fee. It only gets 1x on travel, but ... I would rather be able to pay myself back rather than have 2x better earnings. What I'm saying is, let's say I go to a museum parking lot and it might code as travel, it might code as transit, it might code as nothing at all. I'm willing to take the risk for having some of the time, some of these are going to code as travel, so I can pay myself back at 1.25 Aeroplan points per dollar, 1.625 Chase points per dollar, because as we discussed earlier in the live stream, my thing is to make travel free. So when I go in and do all my math at the end of this trip, I'm going to have to account for every single penny spent. So the more I can knock off that bottom line, the better, or that top line to get to the bottom line, the better. It also gets 3x on grocery stores, so not so much confectionaries like candy stores, but if I know I'm in an actual full-blown grocery store, I'm going to use this card. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Last time we spent maybe $100 on groceries, so if I end up using my Venture X or something else by mistake, I'm not going to worry about it, but my general intent, or at least an option, would be to use this at grocery stores for 3x as well. And then hotel meals. So the middle, I'm staying in a cabin, but the start, we're staying at a Hilton. At the end, we're staying at a Hilton. The front one is a Hilton Hampton by Hilton. So there's not, it says there's a restaurant inside, but I think it's like pizza and sandwiches, and that's about all you get. So maybe we'll use that some night. Maybe we'll go over to the Hilton that's less than 5 minutes away, an actual like Hilton by Hilton, and eat there. That'll probably trigger PYB. And then in Austria, we'll probably use that at least 2 of the 3 nights that we're there, I would speculate. Oh, yeah, I can show this. So here are some of the things in the category of might code as travel. This top left picture is a parking lot in Hereford, England. It's kind of hard to see, but it's one of those like honor system parking lots where you park, walk up to a thing, push a few buttons. You say, I'm in slot number 36, and pay when you get back. This is a local commuter train, so that would be a good example. The rental car is going to go on the Aeroplan card. Now, just to clarify, the Aeroplan card has secondary car insurance in your home country, but outside of your home country, it is primary. So while I'm in the UK, that will be primary rental car coverage, and then I can pay myself back on that. Bottom left is a statue called I'll Punch You in the Gut, You Punch Me in the Head in the British Museum. So any kind of museums will put on that and hope it codes as travel, transit, whatever. About half do, half don't. It just kind of depends on how you get lucky. Touristy things like the Tower Bridge, not the actual Tower Bridge we're going to, but that kind of thing. Here's an old cathedral in Hereford, touring cathedrals will put on that. And then this represents tours. This was in Greenwich at the Old Naval College. You got a tour guide there. So anything that tours, I know Viator for sure codes as travel. So if I book it through Viator, that tour will go on my Aeroplan, pay myself back. And just to give one example of something I've already locked in that I know for sure works, the Trans-Pennine Express is one of like 20 national railways. And if Sam was here, he could clarify for me. But I already paid for that, already coded as travel, so it's already pay yourself back eligible. That's to get us from our flight to the town of York and back. For all four of us, that's $225 round trip. That one's already eligible for pay yourself back, so I know for sure that one works as travel, and I will be paying myself back. I got to blow my nose here. Thank you. Rodrigo says, also, Mike Newland, thank you for the gifted membership. You're a legend, indeed. Yuri says, oh, yes, I'll try to use my Aeroplan for travel now. Great. Gold Homer says, they might be giants are awesome live. Use your StubHub credit to see them. Not a bad idea. Would you trade earning 5x on redeeming UR at 1.625 cents per point? Yes, I would, Kent. I actually, in my Aeroplan standalone video, I calculated that you would have to average more than 12 cents per point, average more than 12 cents per point for it not to be worthwhile. JC says if you spend a total of exactly 2K or 2K increments abroad, it triggers 500 bonus points on the Aeroplan card. So 1.25 times 1.25, pay yourself back at 1.56 cents per point. Yeah, you can think about it that way. I don't know if we've met before, JC. I don't remember the panda bear there. So awesome. Glad to see you around. Looks like he's eating some good Dugroz eats there. Budget Retirement Travel says, be careful driving that EV. You may never want to drive gas cars again. Well, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Thanks, Budget Travel Retirement. I appreciate it. By the way, Budget Retirement Travel, are you the person that left a comment at one of my videos recently and said you were a financial advisor and have your own blog and that kind of stuff? If you are, I looked some of it up. It was pretty cool. Wells Fargo Autograph Journey and Aeroplan card are high on my wish list, says JC. Yuri says you can just spend 2K anywhere. Yep. Sorry, I should have clarified the 500 bonus works anywhere. Doesn't have to be abroad. Which standalone video on Aeroplan? I'd like to watch it. I don't remember what it's called. It's the one that I recorded in my car, and I think it's the most recent standalone one on Aeroplan. Maybe from February, March, something like that. Let's keep going. Oops, wrong button. Next card. Tap to pay convenience. Yeah, whoever said Aeroplan and the USBR was exactly right. So next category I'm going to call tap to pay convenience. And I'm really not sure exactly how to categorize this because it's more of a concept than like a category. So again, no foreign transaction fee on the US Bank Altitude Reserve. I apologize to everyone. Yes, this is a grandfathered card. You can't get it anymore, but lots of us have it. You get 3x on Apple Pay. Actually, you get 3x on any mobile wallet, but the one I have is Apple Pay and works very consistently, very well. It works on lots of stuff. And the example I listed here is ambiguous dining. Here's a picture of the Hereford Cathedral again. And in another example, so once we took the cathedral tour and we went to see this other area called the Chain Library and the Mappa Mundi, which was really cool. It went over lunchtime, so we wanted to get something to eat. And they had like this little shop that sold like pastries and like finger sandwiches, like a egg salad sandwich cut in half in a little plastic container. Not fountain pop, but like a pre-bottled Gatorade, that kind of stuff, where it's sort of like, we don't want to have health inspection kind of cafe kind of thing. So the little tiny cafe, they might have sold t-shirts or something too. I don't know. How's it going to code? Is it going to code as dining? It might, but it might code as a souvenir shop. It might code as a donation to the Church of England. It might code as a museum. It might code as a National Heritage Center. It might code as general services. It might code as travel. I don't really know. So when you run across those ambiguous, I'm going to get some candy bars, I'm going to get some pop at this little concession stand, at this little hole in the wall built into the side of an old stone building, whatever you call it, I call that ambiguous dining. And that's a perfect example for the US Bank Altitude Reserve, because you have no idea how it's going to code, but you are going to get 3x points at least. Uber and Lyft is something else I'll use it on, and that's kind of an experiment. Now, it'll code as travel, so I will get the 3x. I do have the CSR Lyft benefit, so I'll use that once, at least once, depending on a variety of factors. I might use it more than once, but you only get it once per month, so I'm not going to use it all the time. I don't know how many Ubers and Lyfts we're going to have. Probably, well, at least 2 for sure. 1 to get to the airport, 1 to get home. But we might have more depending on how we want to get from like the Manchester airport to our daytime hotel, etc. In the Frequent Miler article on what works where for the Altitude Reserve and real-time rewards, there's multiple entries of like Uber in Canada not triggering real-time rewards, but it is an American company, so as long as it charges as a US-based company, it should trigger real-time rewards. If you have data points of using Uber or Lyft with the USBR outside the United States, did or did it not trigger real-time rewards? But like in comment sections, I've seen some people saying it does. I've seen some people saying a potential workaround is like, if you know it's going to be $22, load $22 of cash into your Uber account, and that'll trigger it, and then just spend that. So it'll be an experiment, but whether or not I get real-time rewards, if nothing else, I'm earning 3x. And then if I use it some, that's great, but I'm not going to fret over this versus the Venture X. If I get 2x on my Venture X, great. If I get 3x on my Altitude Reserve, great. Whatever. I'm just not going to worry about it too much. Now, at the bottom is a picture of a restaurant in London. What was it called? It was called the Something Bar and Grill. It's really close to downtown London, next to an old historic church. Byward, B-Y-W-A-R-D, Byward Bar and Grill. And I can tell you, we sat like not at this table, but the one just off screen to the left of it. This is a stock image I found online. And, you always hear about, in Europe, they bring a card reader to your table and you just do tap to pay on it. And this was that first day after landing at like 11 in the morning. We were so jet lagged. This is the only time in my life I have literally like nodded off in the middle of a sentence, like I was talking to my kids and said something and kind of just forgot what I was saying and almost pretty much fell asleep while talking. But one thing that was cool is the very first restaurant we ate at, they did the thing, they brought out the terminal where you just tap your phone on the terminal, just like in the movies and on the YouTube videos and stuff. So maybe I'll use it some for dining, especially at the ambiguous dining. Maybe I'll use my Wells Fargo autograph. Maybe I'll use my Venture X. It's not that big of a deal. Obviously, if it's for sure dining, I'll stick with my Wells Fargo autograph. But any ambiguity whatsoever, if tap to pay is an option, I go with this guy. Let's see. Gonna catch up on comments here. Oh, more comments than I would have expected. Okay. Yuri G says, okay, we talked about that. I got the Wells Fargo autograph journey last year in Aeroplan just a few days ago. Yuri says the Altitude Reserve is the best. If I only had to have one card, it would be the USBAR. I agree. Can't beat the dining earnings at a Hilton restaurant with a Hilton card. That's true, but I will take pay yourself back over earnings because I want to hit that bottom zero. Depends on what your philosophy is. If your philosophy is to get the most value per point as possible, then yeah, use your Hilton card. If your philosophy is save as much money as possible so you don't impact your family budget, go with my method. Gold Homer says, how many Dugroz points do I get for the correct guess, Doug? I need to transfer them to Harbor Freight Rewards. Good job on the transfer partners. Yes, the known transfer partners are Harbor Freight Tools, Bennigan's, and Vacasa's, but only in Iowa and West Virginia. I'll give you 5,000 Dugroz points, Gold Homer, for correctly guessing that the Altitude Reserve and the Aeroplan card would both be on the list. New Again says, first, thanks for the song. One of several reasons you are better than Frequent Miler. Second, you better be careful with StubHub. It's only a marketplace and they have poor customer service. I haven't used them yet, so thank you for the warning. Nuracan71, good to see you on board, Nuracan. I received a survey in my email for the Altitude Reserve. One of the questions about how I feel about transfer partners. That would be interesting. It would be. I have a feeling they would botch it. Will the $10 Lyft CSR coupon work overseas? As far as I know, but somebody tell me if you have a data point otherwise. Yuri chimes in on the Uber and Lyft overseas. No, it does not trigger real-time rewards if the charge is not in US dollars. And even if it is in US dollars, like taxis on booking, it also didn't trigger real-time rewards. Interesting. So somehow it has a way of knowing. But sounds like I could load like $30 into my Uber cash and that would trigger it, right? As long as over $10. Ryan Sieber says, late join, but right on time for the Altitude Reserve. US Bank, hands off, just paid a high auto repair with it. Clutch. Interesting. I also paid for an auto repair on it, about $300 recently. Gold Homer says, what happened to Casey's? Did they get dropped from the transfer partner Dugroz network? Was that on the list? I think it's on the list, but maybe it's not a great ratio. It's like 2 to 1.5. I'm working on it, okay? There is no Lyft overseas except in Canada. Okay, so I better use my Lyft on my trip to the Des Moines airport then. Otherwise, that won't work. I just knew because I used Uber in Sweden, so I just assumed, but you know what happens when you assume. Thanks for clarifying that, Yuri. I appreciate it. Not actually in the wallet. This was mentioned by Dennis. At least not the out and about wallet where I literally have it in my wallet. Is the Hilton Surpass card, but it will come into play. Sorry, I got to blow my nose. So I wanted to give it an honorable mention. Gave away the secret here. So I'll be staying in at least 4, maybe 5 Hiltons. Wait, no, is that right? 1 in New York, 1 in Austria. I will do a day rate in Manchester when we arrive to take naps and stuff. And then, okay, at least 3, maybe 4. Probably in New York City for our layover as well. Although I'm debating a Hilton versus a Wyndham right now. I think I'm going to go with the Hilton, but haven't decided yet. So that will be used at least once to trigger the $50 quarterly credit. And then I've got 3 Hilton gift cards, $50 each, that I need to burn through from pre-January 1st when that kind of got slammed down. You couldn't do that anymore. So between the 3 or 4 Hiltons, surely one of them is going to take gift cards. So hopefully by the end of this trip, I've been working on all my skills, looking at all the data points. And when it comes to using Hilton gift cards, I have a very particular set of skills I've acquired over a very long time, or at least a couple months. So fingers crossed, guys, by the time this trip is done, no more Hilton gift cards. And honestly, I'm not sure I'm ever doing them again. Even if they do bring back the option, I'll just go downtown Des Moines and eat at a Hilton restaurant on the quarters I'm not traveling. That seems easier. Honorable mention also goes to the Chase Sapphire Reserve. It's not going to be in my wallet. It's not going to actually come out. I might bring it for an emergency. So I'll have the out and about wallet and then the just in case wallet. Maybe it makes the just in case wallet. I already used the Sapphire Reserve to pay taxes and fees on flights. And I got 3x on those flights. Now, if it was after October 27th, I would have got 4x. But since this is the OG Sapphire, I don't have a card that looks like this. I really do feel like it looks like the Epcot ball there. I got 3x. And I mainly did it for the insurance. So like I said, the way it's worded is if you pay for any portion of a trip, you should get the emergency medical and dental, the emergency evacuation. You know, there's lost luggage and stuff. I'm not as worried about that, but nice to have, certainly. So I've kind of gone over the ones I want to use, the four main ones, but let's talk about the Transit Quartet and why I bring that up. So we got your double-decker London bus in the bottom left-hand corner. I don't know about the north of England, around Manchester and York and over in North Wales, but at least around the London area, what I remember is when you're using public transit, um, I bought like an Oyster card in advance, thinking I was getting a better rate because the kids' rate was slightly better. It was a lot of hassle, and I maybe saved $2 the entire trip. But what I found out was that when you go onto a bus, everyone has to have a different payment method. And same thing for tapping in and out of subways. The idea is some of them are scan on, scan off. And I think they have something in it where, because it has like a maximum it knows to charge you, every person has to have their own credit card number. So like I was thinking, like, let's say this card right here is my Oyster card, that would just be like, I'm going to pay for the next 4 people. Tap, 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 tap. Nope, you can't do that, at least not in the United Kingdom. So I'd have to tap 4 different payment methods if I had like young kids, or since my kids are teenagers, just hand them a credit card before we get on and say, use this. So for those kind of situations, not like the long train ride, but just getting around town on a bus. And I don't know how much we need, because York is small, you can walk. Chester is small, you can walk. But if I do need to take a bus across town or a above ground train or something like that, here's the Quartet that I'm going to use. So my wife's Aeroplan card is already maxed out, or will be close to maxed out, because our Hampton Inn we're paying is going to be like $1,700, and I decided to pay cash on it. 2 rooms, 3 nights. That's why it's so much. Because the cents per point was only like 0.28 cents per point. So I didn't want to blow my Hilton points on something that was that bad of value. So her Aeroplan card is mostly devoted to that, and the train ride, I've only got like $200 of bandwidth left, and hopefully that'll go towards meals, things in the pantry, those kind of things. So my Aeroplan card is going to grab all the miscellaneous stuff, the buses, the trains, the boats, and whatnot. So one of us, like my wife, I'll hand her my Aeroplan card, and then I will have my Aeroplan card on my mobile device, which is a iPhone, because the way it reads it as a unique card number when you're using tap to pay. And I did try this out last time. So my wife uses the physical card, I use the mobile card. We can pay ourselves back on both of those. I have a Venture X, and my wife is an authorized user. Fortunately, the Venture X gives a different card number to authorized users, similar to how Amex does. So then one of the boys will use my wife's auth user card. One will use my Venture X. So we've got 4 different taps, and all of those pay yourself back in some way. Venture X calls it the travel eraser. And yes, it's only 1 cent per point, but it'll help me get down to 0. And, at least I'm earning 2x on it. So it's kind of like 1.02 cents per point. You can think about it that way. So that's what I'm going to use for transit. I'm guessing we're going to have less than $100 of local transit on this trip, because it's not London. Something that really kind of hit me about the United Kingdom is I looked up a list of the largest cities in the United Kingdom by population, or metropolitan areas. And I think London has 12 million people in the metropolitan area. The second largest is Birmingham at 2 million. So the drop off is immense. It's like going from New York City down to Indianapolis. I'm not sure if I have the right ratios there, but something like that. So other than London, boy, a lot of chest hair showing today. Let me rectify that here. Got my shirt tucked in too tight. Much better, much better. Yeah, I don't know how much public transit we're going to need, because Chester and York are so small, and then Wales is so spread out, you're driving everywhere. So we'll find out. Now, Austria might have more, because I've never been to Vienna before. If any of you have been to Vienna, is the buses the same way there? Just tap something getting on, tap something getting off? That'd be good for me to know. All right, so I'm still behind on comments here. We talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about that. Okay, New Again says, nah, bruh, this is about the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve and transfer partners. If I wanted transfer partners, I'll go to Chase and Amex. Like, if I want pizza, I don't go to a Chinese buffet. My only thought would be there might be some sort of hackability because US Bank doesn't know any better. Like, if they set up Wyndham at 1-2 or something like that, that'd be right up my alley. Yes, thanks to Yuri for clarifying no lift overseas and how it works. I appreciate that. Yuri also says, I was using Didi rideshare extensively in Mexico and Colombia recently. In Canada, there's Hop rideshare. I've heard of it. City Prestige is best for paying taxes on flights. I don't have the City Prestige, Yuri. Maybe the way I feel every time you bring up the Prestige and rub it in my face is the same way that other people feel when I bring up the Altitude Reserve. So I apologize. QC Man says, I think you just have to tap in and out with the tube, not buses. If you don't tap out with the tube, I think they charge you the highest rate in the London Transit. That sounds right to me. I think on buses, it was just a tap in. On the subway, it was tap in and out, or on the Overground or the Elizabethan line or anything like that. But we still each need our own card, because I remember the very first time I got on a bus, I was going to use like the Oyster card twice, and then like for me and the wife, and then the two kids would have their own. And the bus driver was like, gotta pay something separate. So I'm like scrambling to pull something up on my phone. All the British people are like, look at that stupid Yankee taking up extra valuable time. Actually, they're all of the native English people were very friendly. Some of the other tourists weren't. In fact, one of my memory of the double-decker bus is we were sitting up front. Here, I'll biganize it again. And a local fella got on and sat in the front row of the top section, which is like right next to the front. And we were sitting in the top, maybe about 2 rows back, but there was no one between us. He was maybe like 25 or 30 years old. And right as he sat down, leaned forward, put his backpack away, the bus driver started going forward, but then hit the brakes, and his head went forward and slammed into the windshield. And he went, oh! And I said, oh, you good, man? And he said something like, it's all right, mate. And I thought, hey, I got called mate by a British guy. I feel accepted now. So we're buds. QC Man says, no shame in using the travel eraser for small purchases. Yeah, I actually think that's one of the things that does the best. Right now, I've only got like 4,000 Capital One points, so it's not like there's one big thing I'm saving up for anyway. Ryan says, anticipating a Hilton stay using two $50 gift cards. I'll put another $50 on the Surpass, rest on the Aspire, realize the bad optics, tips on making this go smoothly. I've only done it one at a time, so I can't tell you, but here's the strategy I'm going to use. The first chance I get, I've got one loaded into my mobile wallet, and I've heard that works pretty well. So I'm going to say I'd like to put 43 pounds on this card. Now, at the conversion rate, that's a little under $50, but I've heard it's important to stay under. If I end up losing $3 or $4, I don't care. So I'm going to say I'd like to put 43 pounds on this card, tap to pay, hope it works. Don't say a gift card, just say on a credit card. I think the idea is that they're actually Amex gift cards, just somehow they've been hard-coded to only work at Hilton's. And then I'll swipe one in person and then save the other one for the next time. So it should only take 2 tries. My Surpass I've got as the payment card of record for our day rate hotel, so that one should trigger automatically. That's what I'm going to try. And like I said, if it doesn't go well, at least it'll make a cool video. It'll make a good video whether or not it goes well. All right, we're close to done here with the main event. So here's the entire wallet to look at, excluding our honorable mention or role player cards. The actual like physical, wallet that I'll have is the Aeroplan card, the Altitude Reserve, the Autograph, and the Venture X. In the bottom left, we've got a picture of Stratford upon Avon. This is the same town as William Shakespeare's house, but his is about 200 yards to the left, not pictured here. It says something about fudge and pastries there in the bottom left corner. So that's what I mean with all these little shops. So very English looking. I like it a lot. So I think this is a pretty good wallet. I've only got 4 cards to manage for my entire family. 5, I guess, if you count my wife's authorized user card of the Venture X, but that's what it'll be in my wallet at least. What do you think? Do you think that's a good wallet? I find it interesting that it's 4 different issuers: Chase, US Bank, Wells Fargo, and Capital One. Amex not getting any love. Not anything wrong with Amex, just didn't work out in this time. So I don't have to worry about, sorry, we don't accept Amex. I don't think I'm even planning to bring any Amex cards other than the Hilton card and the Hilton gift cards, of course. So that's that. I do want to just observe real quickly. If I didn't have the goal, New again asked about, like, what if I just wanted to have higher earnings? If I wasn't trying to pay myself back and hit my net goal of 0, I think this actually would be a pretty boss wallet outside the US. You have both the Autograph and the Venture X with no foreign transaction fees. With your Autograph, you get 3x on anything that codes as travel or transit, anything that codes as gas, electric vehicle, or dining, and then you get 2x on everything else, all with no foreign transaction fees. That would actually keep it really simple. You could even go more simple and just use your Venture X for everything. Now, there were some data points shared with me by friend of the channel, Chad Pennycuff, and big-time Dugroz diehard. He was in, I apologize, it was either China or Japan, both, I think. I think in China, he says a lot of things you have to pay for. You have to like load your credit card into a certain app and then use that app to tap to pay, and it automatically flows through to your card. And he had a Capital One card, and he kept getting security alerts over and over and over, and it just made it completely unusable. I didn't have that experience in England and Sweden last time. I used my Venture X Sum and it went fine. Didn't have any problems with it. So maybe that's just a China thing. So I can't speak for everyone's situation, but if you go to a country that's a little, maybe not tippity top of first world in terms of credit cards, where you actually present it directly, maybe that will be an issue. I can't say for sure. If any of you have general warnings about credit cards being used overseas, like don't use this issue or whatever in this country, now's a good time to drop those. Yeah, okay, I just went back to this last slide just to have it on the screen. That's the end of the theme of the day. I hope all of you chaps jolly well liked my British wallet. I'm not sure which Pacific accent this is. Maybe it's Manchester. I'm not sure. Should I read the rest of the comments in this voice? Absolutely not, Dugroz. That was Mary Poppins there at the end. All right. We talked about that. Gold Homer says, I just found out Wells Fargo lets you use a custom picture on their cards, and there's no restrictions on how many customized cards you can order. Just make your trip photos dozens of Wells cards. I could just take family pictures and put them on my card. Let's see. I have a Signify. My wife has a Signify. I have a debit card. In theory, my wife has a debit card, but she's never used it. An Autograph, and then Golden Ponies and authorized user Golden Ponies. Does it let you split auth users from the main one? Yeah, I've got 6 different cards I could play around with if it allows that. Although for some reason it wouldn't allow it on my Autograph last time I tried, only Golden Ponies. QC Man agrees it's a good 2-card setup, the Autograph and the Capital One Venture X. I'd probably add the CSR for dining and to have a 3-carder, but for 2 cards, that's good. Yeah, I realize Wells Fargo points aren't the most desirable points out there. I get that, but meh. Mike Newland says, is there any concern about using American Express in Europe? The Hilton card worked fine last time. That's the only data point that I can think of. Yuri says, I just got an Attune. Does Attune have no foreign transaction fee? No, Attune does have a foreign transaction fee. I remember because like people were talking about it's great. It's 4x on transit, but if you go outside the US, you're going to pay a 3% fee, get 1x, you're only netting 1x. You might as well just use your 2x everywhere card. Too Easy says, thanks for another gifted month, kind stranger. Awesome. Okay, that's the end of the presentation of the day. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and dive into our community tab questions today. Every Friday, somewhere between 5 and 7 p.m. Central Time, approximately, I will put a picture online, and you can do a couple things with that. One is regarding the picture. You can guess where the picture was taken. And the other is you can just ask questions and stuff about points, miles, cashback, and more. So here is the picture today. There's me standing in front of what looks like a little teeny tiny airplane. So let's dive into that now. I'm going to pull up my comments on my cellular phone. Let's see what we got here. Ian KM1 says, I thought this main event would be a whole show about how 1.625 still rules while 1.5 drools. That would have been a decent topic just to rant more about the CSR, but where everybody else zigs, I zag. I like to go my own way, but thank you. I appreciate that, Ian. I did note that this may be a low-tech live stream as my MacBook was having issues. Unfortunately, I dropped my MacBook. It was like a slow motion fall off the edge of the bed situation and cracked my screen. And I really want to have that both for general use and before we go to Europe. So I had to take it in for repairs. Between $400 and $500 to get that thing fixed at the Apple store, but I was in a hurry, so I had to get it done. No, I didn't buy Apple Care. I was going to put it on before my 3 months from Amex drop and brake protection ended, but I just plain forgot. So lesson learned. If you're in the mood for making a super chat or a membership donation, that will help me offset the cost of repairing my MacBook. But I did get it back last night, so I was able to use it for the live stream. Didn't have to rely on the Chromebook. All right, the first person to comment on what they think in the picture, what was in the picture, is Ron Byrne, and he says, that is a Stitz SA-2A Sky Baby at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum Udvar Hazy Center next to the Dulles Airport. I love airplanes more than points and miles. And I said, just curious, how did you know that? Did you look it up? And he said, I knew it was called a Sky Baby. I knew it was at the Udvar Hazy Center, but I did have to look up the manufacturer and serial number. So good job, Ron Byrne. You get 5,000 Dugroz points. Congrats on that. Latitude Attitude guy says, I was thinking SeaTac, Air and Space Museum. Oops. Well, you had the right idea. Thank you. And then 1 hour later, after Ron Byrne made his guess, David William guessed the same thing, the Stitz SA-2A Sky Baby at the Udvar Hazy Center. Since you got it right, just you were second place, I'll give 4,000 Dugroz points for that, David. Feeling generous today. Next question is, Bobble JB4R guesses the National Museum of United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. Nope, but good guess. Scott S says, perhaps you're going to get some Venture One use. Otherwise, I think it'd be a good opportunity to get some U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve mobile wallet points. That was probably guessing what I would do about that, what I would use in Europe. And we did cover that. So yes, you guessed correctly. Now, I could have sworn somebody asked a question about like an ideal trip I'd want to take just in 2-player mode alone. So let me look up here. I did a diehards only question. Here we are. I found it. Okay. On that tab, Ron Byrne asked this question. Are there any aspirational trips you are considering when you are empty nesters in about 2 years and the kids are in college or out of the house? Trips with just you and Mrs. Dugroz. The only one that we've got on the radar with a high degree of probability is we want to go to Prince Edward's Island in Nova Scotia. Wait a minute, not in Nova Scotia, near Nova Scotia. Prince Edward Island is its own province of Canada. That's in the Maritimes on the east coast of Canada, if you're wondering. Obviously, we'd want to go in the summer where it's warm, or spring or early fall, not the winter. Have you ever seen the YouTuber that's like, talks about weather, and it's some young man, although he's probably, 30 by now. He's like, reporting in live here from Nova Scotia. Tornadoes coming to Des Moines, Iowa. Everyone in these counties take cover. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? Or am I the only one? Just me? Anyway, so yes, Prince Edward Island, because if you are married to a girl, there's at least a 50% chance that you have heard of Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables is a series of old-timey type books about a girl named Anne who gets adopted and grows up on Prince Edward Island. And back in the 80s or 90s, they made it into a PBS show that anyone born between like 1975 and 1994 has seen multiple times. So she wants to go see the original Green Gables and all that. So that's a very probable trip when we're in 2-player mode only. Another one that's on the radar is just go sit on a beach somewhere. We've kind of avoided those like week-long, just stay at the Hilton Fort Lauderdale or something like that, Conrad, that Uncle Luke likes, because I'm afraid my kids would get bored just with sitting on a beach and doing nothing else. I have a sister-in-law. My wife's sister lives in Southern California, hanging out with Stan the Credit Frog and JP and some others. So maybe go to the Los Angeles area to see the sister-in-law. See the sights, do Disneyland, those kind of things. That's kind of just in the thought process, but not a for sure. Yeah, thank you for asking. Oh, we did the Blue Wave Inn in Ashland, Wisconsin with the boys. We'd like to go back there sometime just as a couple. That was back when Capital One Venture X first came out, and they gave you a like a property credit for Airbnb type stuff. Although that wasn't what we used it on. We used the regular Capital One credit on that. Scott S. says, sorry to hear about your computer. What's your credit card roadmap for the rest of the year? Also, do you have any recommended books on U.S. presidents? Since you wanted to visit all the places they are buried, I figured you might have read a few. What would you recommend first? I'll go in reverse order. I do have a book about the U.S. presidents, just gives kind of a quick synopsis of all of them, and I don't remember what it's called. It's a coffee table book, like 18 inches by 18 inches, something like that. And I really like it. It only goes through George W. Bush. It's a little out of date. It might go through Obama. I don't remember. That's a good one. And then the biography book about John Adams, written by David. It's the same guy that wrote The Pioneers. I can't think of his name. HBO made it into a miniseries, the John Adams miniseries starring that one guy. I didn't read the book. My wife's read the book, but it is on my to-do list, and I have seen the miniseries, which was great. Actually, we own it on DVD. Back when people bought DVDs, remember that? Credit card roadmap for the rest of the year. Okay, so it actually has changed a little bit since I started describing stuff. I have now fallen under 524. I fell under 524 somewhere around June 5th. So I thought about going out and trying to grab the Bonvoy card from Marriott right away. But now that we know there's going to be a business version of the CSR, I am hoping they're a little lenient on applications at first because they want to pad their stats of how many people signed up for it. I was debating keep versus cancel on my IHG business card, and I ended up canceling that to save the $99 annual fee, knowing that I'm going to have a Hilton FNC and I'm going to probably be doing all this stuff with like the edit next year. I didn't want one more free night certificate to have to burn. I know a couple people said, oh, be careful, you cancel that, you may never get it back. That's a risk I'm willing to take. I haven't really gotten heavily into IHG. It's sort of like Hilton, Hyatt when it makes sense, and then everything else. So IHG, if they had like free breakfast with platinum status, then they would be back on my list, but they don't. I get everything I need through Hilton. So I'm a Hilton guy. So I canceled the IHG business card, and there's a Venn diagram of three things that come into play. One is I didn't want the annual fee anymore. I'd rather just have the $99. One circle of the Venn diagram is this frees up credit limit. And if you're a member, you know I had a talk with a banker on the reconsideration line at Chase not too long ago who said, well, one way you might get approved is to cancel one of your cards or lower your credit limits. Various data points. I don't know if that'll work or not, but I'm kind of taking a flyer and hoping that by dropping $5,000 out of my business credit, I'd be more likely to get the CSR for business. And then the third part of the Venn diagram is hoping that when the CSR for business does announce whatever its sign-up bonus is, it'll be something juicy, at least $75,000. I would rather have 75,000 Chase points than 5 free night certificates with Marriott, the way I use it. So I'm going to hang in there, see what happens with the sign-up bonus, cross my fingers, and hope that about a month from now, I'm going to give it a full month since I canceled. So somewhere around middle of July, I'll say late July into early August, I will apply for the business CSR. Sometime after that, I'll get the personal Marriott card. I realize I might lose out on my 5 FNCs. I'm willing to take that chance. And after that, I don't know. We'll just see how the spirit leads after that. I've been gardening this whole calendar year, and now I'm waiting until August 1st before getting my first personal card. Fingers crossed that it'll be worth it. The other thing is, like, I have more 524 slots falling off. So by the end of the year, if I don't get anything, I should be at like 324, maybe even 224. So I don't think it's a terrible thing to give that a little more bandwidth too. Flying Ryan asked, did I get the US Bank Altitude Reserve survey, and how will my Aeroplan use change with recent news? I did not get the survey, and my usage will not change at all. I was planning on blowing most of it on this trip to the United Kingdom, and that's what I'm still planning on. After this calendar year, we'll just have to see. I'm going to definitely keep mine. Will I keep Players 2s? Probably at least one more year. I think there's some good stuff I can do with it. I'm really good at like maxing out freedom flexes and freedoms and that kind of stuff. So I think it'll still be a good fit for me, even if the ink train has dried up. He also asks, are you hitting up the Iowa State Fair this year? Maybe. We'll just have to wait and see. It always comes at a terrible time. It's like the week before school starts, and my wife is going into in-service meeting because she's a teacher. So it's never good timing. And I'm going to be honest. I know this is almost sacrilegious to say as a resident of Des Moines, Iowa. I'm not huge on the Iowa State Fair. And I'll tell you why. The State Fair appeals to three groups of people. Group number one is people that are really into farm animals and agriculture. I'm glad that lots of people are, but I'm not. So looking at tractors doesn't do a lot for me. Looking at a horse or a sheep or a bull in a pen that's filled with lots of poop doesn't really do anything for me. Now, looking at sheep out in the rolling hills of Wales or out in a live environment's great, but in a smelly steel building in 95-degree weather with 95% humidity, not really my thing. And then the second group of people is people that really like alcohol, and I'm not one of them. I don't drink, so that doesn't apply. And then the third is people who really like concerts and live music. And with very few exceptions, like they might be giants, like Tori Holub, who's sort of a Karen Carpenter-esque new singer, I don't really have any desires to go to concerts. I don't want to see, washed up Metallica 30 years later or something like that. And I know, John, if you're still on board, you'd probably kill me for saying that. But it's just not my scene. So yeah, the Iowa State Fair doesn't do a lot for me. That brings up a good point. At some point, I think in late July, there's a Tori Holub concert, Holub. Look her up. I'll even put it here in the comments here. She sings in the same style as Karen Carpenter. I think that's how you spell it. And she's from the Minneapolis area, and I might actually come up to Minneapolis. And I think you can get a booth for a group of people, up like 4 to 6 people. So if anybody wants to meet me in Minneapolis and go to this concert together, I'm thinking that over, let me know. You can put a comment or hit me up offline, one of the two. I better catch up on my in-person comments here. Way behind schedule. Holy cow. Okay. Tui says, thanks for another. Oh, yep, we already read that one. Attune only has public transportation, and abroad I now use Future Debit. Okay. I was going to mention, maybe I'm not brave enough. I'm sure Yuri has traveled a million times more than I have. I do have the PayPal debit card, and if you're wondering why I'm not using the PayPal debit card for dining, I just have a little bit of a fear about using a debit card for purchases overseas. I just feel a lot more comfortable with a credit card. Take that for what it's worth. Clairvoyant says, dang, I'm late again. Gold Homer says, hey, Zeus, Doug, the Iowa airport has really gone downhill. How did you fit your family in that small plane? I see what you did there. Yuri says, so do you suggest not using the CSR 1.5 redemption anymore since I have Aeroplan now? There are times where you can get a good deal through the portal, and remember, you do max out on the Aeroplan at 200,000 points per year. So if you're not worried about maxing out and the price is the same, I would use Aeroplan instead. If you can strategize it, hit the sign-up bonuses. For two reasons. One is 1.625 is better than 1.5. 2 is you're getting the actual price. 3 is you're paying directly with the airline, so less hassles if you have to cancel, airline or hotel. 4 is if it is a hotel, you're still getting your rewards. And 5 or whatever, you're earning 1 cent per point, which isn't a lot, but 1 cent per point is better than 0 cents per point than using points through the Chase portal. Is Latitude Attitude the prince of travel? That's a good question, and I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I can't tell just by looking. I'm sorry. JC says, if there's something you'd strongly prefer to book direct as opposed to chase travel, the Aeroplan is a better option. Dennis Dunn says, where's the bangers and mash? Your accent is getting me hungry, Doug. Good. I'm glad it's that good. Manuel Jimenez says, Pan Am's back. Good to see you on board, Manuel. I have heard about this, but I don't know any details. Can you fill me in? Can you give me the one paragraph description? Quality Control Man says Anne of Green Gables was based in Prince Edward Island, if I recall correctly. Yep, that's the idea. And QC Man says there was also a Disney series that when I was a kid called Anne of Avonlea that was a sequel, I think. That is the name of one of the sequels. My wife is vacuuming, so I can say this without getting in trouble. She loves Anne of Green Gables, and my boys and I love making fun of Anne of Green Gables. So we have this running joke that's super corny for years now that all the sequels are just different colors of Gables. So you have Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Brown Gables, Anne of Red Gables. And the theme song is something like this. Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Brown Gables. Look at the gables, so many colors. There's a red gable, a yellow gable. And it doesn't make any sense, but we still have fun mocking it in that way. Just between friends here. David McCullough is the author that I was thinking of who wrote the John Adams book and others. I'm reading The Pioneers right now. QC Man also confirms David McCullough wrote a book about Truman. The John Adams book is good, but Truman is better. Awesome. 1776 is my favorite book of his. Is that the one I already read? I read one of his all the way through. I don't remember which one. Maybe I did read the John Adams book. Boy, I'm off now. QC Man says, I was thinking of getting the 1776 book. I'm sure it's awesome, like all of his stuff. So, fun fact, the only time I read novels, and this is to my shame, I should read more, but I'm a very slow reader, is on flights. So I've been gradually reading my way through the Pioneers, about 30 pages at a time whenever I fly somewhere. D Green says the rumored CSR sign-up bonus for business is 200,000 UR points for 30K in spend. I got excited about the 200,000, not as excited about the 30K. Chase is more forgiving with gift card buying than a lot of issuers. So if that's the case, I didn't time it out very well with my US Bank triple cash rewards card, did I? Flying Ryan says, I'm late, but I made it. I'm guessing the theme's the UK. I'm excited for my trip in 2 weeks. You're going to the United Kingdom as well? We'll have to hang out together. Not that our times overlap or anything. Oh, hey, that's me. What Julie Andrews movie poster is that behind you? I was hoping someone would pick up on that. I had about 30 seconds to prepare last night, and I'm like, do I have any British people in my record collection? That's Julie Andrews' Christmas album. All right, children, let's clean up this mess. If there's a task that must be done, don't turn your tail and run. Don't pout, don't sob, just do a half-assed job. I might be getting Mary Poppins conflated with Sherry Bobbins from The Simpsons there. Yuri says PayPal debit has foreign transaction fees, but the future doesn't. That would be another reason why I better not use my PayPal debit. I'll have to look into this future card you speak of, Yuri. You have earned a screenshot. Thank you. Yep. QC Man confirms the same thing. Manuel says, hey, Doug, I'm up in Eureka, California. I'm not going to be able to make it to Trinidad. I was about to ask, are you going to get to Trinidad? Eureka sounds awesome, though. That's north of San Francisco, right? Yuri G says, I'm not sure what's a problem when buying food with debit versus credit. I'm a rookie, Yuri. Go easy on me. Yuri, when are they going into the mountains? I don't know what that's referencing. Gold Homer says, Jimmy Carter wrote a novel called The Hornet's Nest. It has a pretty graphic in it. I don't want to get hit up by the YouTube censors, so I'll just let that comment sit there. I don't know what he means either. Clairvoyant says, I'll be in London the second half of July until August. Awesome. Lots of people going overseas. Ian says, nuclear sites. When are they going into the mountain? Nuclear sites. Yuri can give me a referral for future. Great. I'm not going to have a chance to work on it now. Maybe in the fall, I'll think of it. But thank you for mentioning it. Hey, we've hit the end of our content for the day. He said, Flying Ryan says, I'll be sticking around London for this trip, though. That about does it. Let's review who has contributed to the channel so far today. Last chance to drop a donation, make a comment, or ask a question. It is now noon, so 2.5 hours perfectly, almost on the button. Tom Graber gifted a membership. John gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, John. Ian M. mentioned that he's been a member for 8 months, which I appreciate. TH gave $2 as part of his Saturday morning ritual. QC Man has been a member for 15 months. Mike Newland came in strong like he often does and donated 20 memberships. That's the equivalent of $60. QC Man gifted 1. He also gave a $1.99 super sticker. And Mertz Points and Miles, $4.99. I should ask this, Mertz, and I apologize. I'm a little embarrassed, but I will admit that I don't know. Do you have a YouTube channel, or is it just because you like Points and Miles? I am really sorry if I have missed that. The future debit card is a debit card, so don't impact your credit report. Got it. Absolutely. It's more of just, I don't have time to look into it. I've got like 30 things on my I need to look into this list. But thank you so much for sharing, Yuri. And thank you to everyone who dropped by today. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't done so, on your way out the door, be kind. Click the thumbs up button. That'll drive more people in to watch later. If you want a last second super sticker, hey, look, FC just did it. You read my mind right there. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, FC. I so appreciate the patronage. This is about your last chance to do it. D Green confirms that Mertz does, in fact, have a YouTube channel. I should probably look into that, huh? Wouldn't it be funny if I've seen it before and I just forgot? I will admit, and, you know, our credit card community is growing, which is great. We can't all watch each other's videos. There's probably, 100 hours of content published every single week. So there's some credit card YouTubers out there. I mean, if Ask Sebi's not watching my videos, I'm not going to take it personally. You know, if Stan the Credit Frog doesn't watch every single one of my live streams, I don't take it personally. So I'm hoping others don't take it personally when I'm not as familiar with their channels. You've really only got about 5 or 6 you can kind of follow super faithfully. Unless you're retired like Cesar, then you can be friends with everyone. Ian also comes through and pushes through almost said $1, a 99-cent super sticker. Thank you, Ian. Celebrate, celebrate. Speaking of Stan, is he live today? I don't know. Seems like we're about due for one of his videos. I'm going to call it good there. Thank you so much, friends. I really appreciate it. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks.